whoa, and we're right. And we're live, and that was almost. I almost went off the back of the chair. Steve, what's going on? It's the legendary Steve Magnante.
Yeah, back again. Great to be here. I think my third or fourth appearance on your show. Thanks to be here. Great to be here, Tony.
I think it's at least a fourth. It might actually be longer than that, more than that.
Yeah, we did a Halloween show. I remember a while back. That was interesting, talking UFOs and stuff. But
my people love you, bro. They just say, when are you having Steve back on? Well, there you are.
Cool. But yeah. I mean, tonight, if you want, I'm thinking, classic and modern muscle cars. Is there a difference, and which one's better, et cetera, et cetera? It's
okay. So from an emotional standpoint, which side of the coin I fall down on. It's like all classic. But the new stuff does have. You know what I'd like to talk about, and I think we get some good feedback from our people on here too, on our viewers. By the way, hello everybody. I know I usually run through and say hi to everybody as they pop in, but tonight's one of those nights. So you have the classic muscle car era. Let's call it 1962 to 1972. Okay, and then you've only got about a 10-year period where there was nothing. Right? From around 72, you had the Trans Am and you had various sticker package cars and Roadrunners and whatnot. But there was like a void. There was a muscle car void, a cultural muscle car void from around 1972, 1973 to around 1983, 1984.
Yeah.
And then you have the second coming of the muscle car, the 5-liter Mustang and the Turbo Buicks and the IROCs and all of that stuff. Okay. At what point do we go from what is classic muscle to what is modern muscle?
Yeah. That's a good point. I think the 5-liter Mustang, like when it got fuel injection in '86, when this happened right here, Tony.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you, all right. Yeah, and I know that I'm 57, and I started reading car magazines in like '73 or '4, and I remember at that point in time, the Pinto Pony MPG, the Mustang II were the thing. Volkswagen Rabbits, Honda Civics, those little brown Rabbits. Remember those things everywhere? Diesel sometimes, or like that pea green color. And in the meantime, Roadrunners and GTOs are being traded in for $600 toward a $4,000 Honda.
They were being left on the side of the road. Your 68 GTO would run out of gas on the side, and people would just take the plate off and walk away. And it's hard to believe that happens. That happened, but like that's a period. I'm 3 years older than you, so that's a period that I remember like vividly, where you'd just be driving along and they'd be like, Buick Grand National or not a Grand National, a Grand Sport or a GTX or just jacked up on the side of the road on milk crates, waiting to get hauled off to the scrapper.
Yeah, I remember Duster 340s here in Massachusetts, everywhere.
Everywhere.
And the 340 on the side was always kind of scuffed up and had half primer on it, but just they were everywhere. And now they're $30,000 to start for a good one, which is fine. It's about time in a way. But anyway, so yeah, I think Detroit rediscovered performance. I think with the 5-liter Mustang coming back on the scene, and it's certainly when it got fuel injection. I remember in '86 when they took the 4-barrel carburetor away, which came along in '84 and '85. Yeah, the Holley 4-barrel back on a muscle car. But who knew that was a limitation that the fuel injection worked around? So I think '86 is the year. The Grand National comes along and of course gets intercooled in '86. And I think '86 is probably when we started to see the ball really start to roll again.
That's when it really got going. But the genesis was a couple of years before. Sure. I remember the 2-barrel Mustang was a big thing, right? Yeah. Just the fact that it had, it was a 302, it had the aluminum air cleaner, dual snorkel, and it had a 2-barrel carburetor. And it was like we got jazzed over that because
traction bars,
right?
Little rubber bumpers. I remember thinking, wow, it's like a Thunderbolt all over again. Not really, but that's what I was hoping. I wanted.
And I think the Buick turbo cars, the non-performance Buick turbo cars, had a lot to do with it also. like the 7980, what was it, the Sabre, the full-size car that they put the 231 V6 in, and it had that little lump on the scoop, and they were turds. They were absolute turds. But it was like the idea that there was some performance there, and I think that got people kind of interested in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a time when dual exhaust pipes were hidden below the rear bumper or valance because they weren't really something that they didn't want to bring. Detroit didn't want to bring attention to the fact this car had dual exhaust, and in Corvettes and stuff, the tips were unadorned and tucked up. Same with like the Buick, the Turbo Regal in '78. It was a 2-barrel and a 4-barrel version of the 231 Turbo. One had dual exhaust, the 2-barrel car, but it had a turbo, and one had single exhaust. It was kind of a weird thing with slowly, step by step, creeping toward the DNA, the building blocks, the basics of a muscle car: dual exhaust, induction, and self-aware, emblems and stuff. That stuff crept up. Well, of course, in the mid '70s, it was all about the stickers and emblems, and maybe a police car suspension package, and maybe a 4-barrel. But yeah, early '80s, we started to get the second wind.
Well, it was that first Mustang GT, talking about the dual exhaust, where they ran the both pipes out to one side.
Right.
And that was a big deal. That was a big deal. I remember seeing those cars, like, I guess, when was that, 1981, 1982?
82. The Boss is back. Yeah.
The Boss is back, exactly.
Two chrome pipes. And actually, they made them chromed or stainless, whatever it was. So that was one of the first times when Mustang dual exhaust was actually highlighted, and it was okay. But keep in mind, I think the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer deal came along, didn't go away till 87 or 88. So 85, remember those 85? And one of the biggest things, I remember in the back of like Cars Illustrated in these magazines, there were companies selling 120 speedo kits.
I'm driving all 3 cars on the cover of that magazine.
Yes.
There's one on the bottom too, right?
There's 20, right?
Lift it up a little bit, Steve.
Okay.
Lift it up. Yeah, the Barracuda. I'm driving all 3 of those cars.
Yeah.
On the cover of that book.
You can see the mustache and the shaggy hair kind of thing, That's cool. And then, but I remember, and Speed and Supercar, these magazines here, the Formula 350 Firebird. All that.
Yeah, I was driving that one too.
And the 5-liter Mustang Speed Seekers, that right there, that's one of your first. It's one of your, not one of your first, but that was. I remember you're writing, and I was a reader before I was a writer. Long, Roger Huntington, as Cliff Gromer, those kind of guys. And I remember your attitude was sort of like, the 60s were where it was at, the 60s muscle cars. But, these modern things are interesting. Let's keep going. And, you're among one of the first to highlight the performance potential, the street racing potential of the modern muscle cars,
Well, if you go back to that era, right? A street car, I remember you guys, younger guys, you don't understand, right? But if you go back to that era, the late 1970s, the early 1980s, for a street car, like to have respect, get street cred, okay, it had to run someplace in the 12s.
Yeah. And
your traditional big block muscle cars would run so off the showroom floor, they'd run like a 1480, whatever it would happen to be. But you give it a little bit of tune up, you know what I mean? It just curve the distributor, jet it, right?
Headers, maybe,
I'd say not even headers, just giving the thing a good super tune and working out the bugs out, and having like a minimum of accessories on it, no air conditioning, you put a clutch fan on it, a decent gear, like a 355 gear. And that 1480 car is now like a 1350 car.
Yeah.
So now to go the next step and have that car that will run in the 12s, so that when you leave the house, you know that you have a fair chance against anything that you line up against, right? Now you throw your headers on it and maybe a little bit deeper gear. Yeah, a good clutch and a bigger carburetor intake manifold. And now you've got a 12-second car and you're ready for battle. So all of the stuff that I did in Cars Illustrated at the time was kind of based on that mentality, right? Yeah, the new muscle cars are here and they're kind of cute, right? But they're a long way to go from these 12-second big block crushers that we have. And like I said, today you got to run single digits to have street cred.
Right.
There are guys out there with 2 JZs that are just normally aspirated, and they're right down to strip in the 9s.
Yeah.
You have to go back 40 years ago and understand what we were dealing with back then. So at that period of time, the modern muscle cars were just cute. And that was like the attitude that we had, when we were doing those magazines.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember too the advent of nitrous oxide, throttle in a bottle. And
Yep.
it's suddenly, I mean, in '86, I owned a 68 Hemi Charger, automatic car, slicks on the thing, 13.2 is 11 on value, 102 is quick, live and drive. And 5 liter Mustang with a set of slicks, set of Hoosiers, and a bottle could put a car length on me on the street. It was like, wow, a Hemi Charger and a 5.0 with a bottle. That sucks. But at the same time, whatever it takes to make your car all ass. And I didn't want to put nitrous on my Charger. That would have been just to me like, wrong, goofy. But a Hemi will respond to stuff like that. But with that said, I remember nitrous Mustangs were one of the biggest threats. And tune port IROCs and stuff like that with a bottle. And companies like NOS and Marvin Miller, 10,000 RPM, those companies made big bucks selling some of the first nitrous kits, to those 5.0 racers and in Buick Grand National a little bit. Mostly it was about the naturally aspirated cars getting nitrous and running into the 12s pretty quickly.
It was mostly, I remember the Monte SS's were the ones
Yeah.
that those are the first nitrous, like regular nitrous cars. Like if you pull up to race somebody and it was an SS, you knew it had a bottle. It was like it was before it caught onto the Mustang crowd. I remember when it caught onto the Mustang crowd in like late 1987 is when they all started, like a lot of the guys, I should say, started sneaking bottles in. And back then, again, like a car that ran in the bottom 13s was like a killer. You had, you went 13.0, 13.20 like that with a 5 liter, you were rocking. But it was the Monte SS and the Grand Prix guys. There were a lot of Grand Prix like in Brooklyn, and there were a lot of guys that had 79, 80, 81 Grand Prix with 305s in them, and they'd spray them and they got numbers out of them.
It might be. I know that to put a nitrous kit on a throttle body car, tune port or 5 liter, you're dealing with a plate and supplemental fuel, whereas putting a plate under a carburetor, the Monte Carlo SS, it's probably a step-by-step easier thing for the average guy. And then remember the chips, those chips from like Hyper Chips and Hypertech and
Hypertech.
I hear they were largely limp home chips, which were just set for maximum this, that, and the other thing. And they weren't really that scienced out. So you'd plug this thing in and it would, I don't know what they did. A lot of mojo and magic on a lot of them. Some were very real, but some were just bullshit.
There were so many chip manufacturers. They just came out of the woodwork,
Yeah, there was no way to prove or disprove what they did or didn't do. It's kind of a problem with them. Nobody had dynos and laptops.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it. There wasn't even an internet back then.
Yeah.
We were doing all of this stuff still on dial-up phones. You know what I mean? There wasn't even cell phones. There was nothing like that. There was no internet, no cell phone, no computers. So we were even when muscle cars, when hot rodding entered the computer era, the computer era that we know today didn't exist. It was nowhere. The internet wasn't even something. It wasn't even an idea in the mind of the general public. The government had it, this institution had it, and so on and so forth. But we were still playing Pong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was as sophisticated as computer shit got.
Yeah.
Perspective. It's all perspective.
Yeah. It is true. I like show and tell. And of course, we know that today, this is a Chrysler 300, and one of the things when this came out, it's the Charger's brother. The 4 doors were a major minus to some folks, but if you ask me, the Charger has grown from strength to strength. The wide body Demon or the Hellcats, those are amazing. And it's funny too, now when you see a Challenger or a Charger without the wide body, it looks kind of wimpy. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny how that works. Well, let's all remember too that the Charger was once that, the 2.2 with the front wheel drive crap.
Don't talk shit about those cars. Those cars were great.
Yeah, no, I get it. But then again, you go back. And so the Charger was once this,
Yeah.
And so, it's just kind of this is a model of the car I had. This is basically what I had mine done up with. I bought it in primer. It was a Torque Flight car and 8 3/4 dual exhaust. Although I didn't have tips. Mine, and that right there, I sort of replicated it. Cop car wheels, 15x8 Ram Charger wheels all the way around, kind of like a roller skate in hindsight. But it ran well. But I remember, at that time, the front wheel drive stuff was coming along. And I never ever thought we'd see, this stuff, the Hemi cars with the 5.7, it's kind of a good time. So back in those days, I was when I was 20 years old in 1984, and if you told me that we'd have Hemi cars again or a Challenger again, I would say no way. And it's just astonishing to me that this stuff exists today. It's an amazing thing. So I say don't take it for granted. But the beauty is, I have some things over here. The first Challenger was built it rolled off Brampton on Thursday, May 8th, 2008. first Challenger, right? And remember, we all thought it's an SRT only. It's going to be like this high profile, like a Viper or sort of like a Prowler, and it'll be gone after 2 years. That was kind of the word. And then the next year, when the 5.7 and the V6 came along, well, check this out. As of like 3 months ago, 673 and 45 Challengers have been built. 673,000 late model Challengers. That's another way of saying that they'll be around forever, which is awesome. And by comparison, the original Challengers, 165,437 from 70 through 74. That's it. So like 5-1, something like that, 6-1. New cars outpace the original. So these are good times. It's all awesome.
I was kind of intrigued by them when they first came out. And there's a dealership over here, Beam and Dodge. It's on the other side of the city here, and they had an orange Hemi 5-speed.
Yeah. That
I was looking at, and I'm like, I could probably learn to like that, right? And I was this close to like sitting down and working a deal, right? And a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine, had one of these cars. It was an automatic. It wasn't a stick. And just out of sheer coincidence, he shows up at the house to show off the car. I'm like, let's take this thing for a romp, right? So he heads up the street and he stomps it. And it was fast, but it just didn't talk to me. It didn't talk to me. You know what I mean? And then what I did was I had my 73 Roadrunner, it's a 344 speed. And I got out of his car and I got on my 73 Roadrunner. And I went around a block and I power shifted second and the thing went, right? Like that, that violent, right? Mopar. And I said, that's what I like. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care how fast this new car goes. It doesn't have that same, when you bang second, the dashboard doesn't go boing like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but that was an automatic 5.7, try a 6.1 5-speed. Or a 6.6 speed, you know what I mean? I'm sure you have.
I've driven them since then, right? But you don't get that same sensation. It's not like, I like the fact that my old unibody car, you know what I mean?
Shutters and moves.
You bang it and just every panel on it just jumps. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, I love that. I love that. The car has to have that.
Remember back in the 80s, a buddy of mine, Louis Soupsack over in Wares, Polish kid, great kid. He's still around. He had a 65 Chevelle, and on the trunk it said, "Keep Fast Company." It had an L88 427 and a Muncie 4-speed in the thing, the 12-bolt, right? And he had traction bars. When he banged second, the glove compartment would pop open.
Yes.
It was like, what the, And another buddy, his trim rings would go flying into the woods on his rally wheels when he banged second or even third sometimes. And he had a Doug Nash 5-speed in that thing. It was kind of ahead of the curve back in 88. Andy Collins. There's a Firebird convertible with a 383 Chevy. And I remember that whole thing with, I got a Chevy, I got a 383. I'm like, wait, you got a Mopar in that thing? Remember that whole deal when 383s were big?
Yep.
My big thing on the Chevy 383 is, why don't you just get a 400? Go for the cubes. The trouble is, of course, with those things, the Siamese bores, et cetera, and finding a good 400.
They were trouble prone. The first 383 Chevy I ever built was actually for a tow rig to tow a Hemi race car.
Nice. Yeah. Get that torque. Yeah.
These guys that I know up in Long Island at the time, I was helping them out with their car. And their tow rig had taken a dump, and they were like, "Oh, what are we putting this thing in?" I says, "Let's try a 383 Chevy." I take a 400 crank, throw it in a 350 block, and that seems to be the hot setup. And the thing towed beautifully. It was like perfect. It was perfect, and it was replacing a 402 that they had in there.
Okay. Wow. The big block Chevy 402. Wow.
Yeah, the 383 outdid everything that the 402 did.
Wow. Yeah. Funny thing is, just to that point, it's kind of ironic. The Chevy 400 and the Chevy 402 big block, small block, they have the same bore and stroke dimensions, which is nutty. It's kind of a weird thing. I do some research on this stuff once in a while. And the 400 Chevy small block and the 402 Chevy big block, I have the same. I don't know the numbers, but they're exactly the same bore and stroke. Kind of a crazy thing, how two very different creatures could have the same internal dimensions.
Steve, you were talking about like things popping open and everything else. Your glove box doors on like the 68, 69 Roadrunners.
Yeah, up the reverse.
You bang second, and the glove box door would pop up. And I used to drive a car for a guy. It was a Hemi Challenger, and this thing I used to smoke Lucky Strikes at the time, and I would put the Challenger has a the ashtray faces you like this, and I would put my pack of cigarettes in the ashtray. And when I would bang second with that car, cigarette would fly out of the pack and go over my shoulder. And that's how I knew the car was like, okay, we got it right. This is good. I hit that shift right. Bang! Boom! Cigarettes would go flying over my shoulder.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. But yeah, so I know the modern stuff. I mean, you're not dead setting it, dead set against modern cars. You appreciate them now, or what do you think? What's your sense on them?
I tell you what, I have very little appreciation for the more classic cars. Like, for instance, the Hemi Challengers or anything like that. I have huge appreciation for the imports. What these guys are doing with these little motors and front wheel drive, just factory parts, right? Like, mundane parts. They're not intended to be anything special, really, but they are. Those are the things that are the most fascinating about. Like, I watch like the Boosted Boys, great channel. Great, like they're us, but the modern version of us using modern cars and modern technology.
Yeah.
Well, I got a super chat here, Steve. Hank Hill is trying to pay my bills. Thank you, Hank Hill. Okay, are fuel and/or temp gauge failures common on 67 B bodies? I've seen this lot in the past. Currently, have a 67 satellite with a non-working temp gauge. Does your gas gauge okay? You have a voltage limiter in the back. Okay, it's a little. It's got 3 prongs. Right, that voltage limiter, when that goes out, your temperature gauge and fuel gauge will stop working. Now, if it's just the temperature gauge, you either have a broken pin, a loose pin on the printed circuit on the back of the gauge, right, or the sending unit is bad. It's just a very simple ground circuit. Okay. All right, so that was that super chat. Steve, what were you saying there?
Oh yeah, just late model stuff. And I will say this, that when the muscle car era started again in the 80s, I always kept an eye on the rear axle and transmission and suspension just as much as I did the engine and exotic body parts. And I was always disappointed in the Chevy Camaro. All the way up to the 5th gen. They had the 7.62 Grenade, basically had its roots in the Chevy Monza. And a little tiny axle, but I talked to some GM engineers one time, Scott, it doesn't matter anyway, but he said that the fuse on those things was tire spin. If you put slicks on the car, you were out of warranty and good luck to you. So I was kind of disappointed when the Ford Mustang got the 8.8, I believe in 86 or 7, a good axle.
Mine had 8.8. I marveled at that rear. I couldn't believe it because at the time, all the new cars had that reputation of exactly that, right? You're cool on the street, because you'll get a couple of rotations of the tire out of it and it won't break it, but you put it on the track, crunch, right? And that Mustang, the rear end was like the last thing I ever had a problem with. I used to blow up the 5-speed. I got to the point that I could rebuild a T5 on the side of the road, almost blindfolded. Wow. I used to carry a cluster gear and a 3rd gear with me, just because I never between 150 and 200 passes, usually 200 right on the money, it would grenade the transmission. And it was, forget about warranty. I didn't want anybody touching my car. It was under warranty, but the hell with it, man. I'll pay for the parts and I'll fix it myself.
Yeah.
But wait, I have another super chat. Oh my God, Mr. Will, what's happening, brother? Wasn't the 402 a mistake by GM because they bore a 396 along with the 400 small block? That's why Impalas with 400 badge really have a 402. The 402 is never meant to be, but did that by mistake. No, they used the same 400 badge if the car had the small block Chevy, it was for a couple of years, right? It was like 72, 73. 71, 72, 73. They had the 400 in like the Impalas and stuff.
Right.
And Mr. Will, it was just depending on what plant the car was, or if you specified that you wanted the 402 in it. So it was just, they only made one emblem instead of, but they used to call, when they first put the 402 in the Chevelle, they went from the 396 to the 402. The heavy Chevy.
Okay, yes, the pseudo muscle car. Yeah, right. Yeah.
The heavy Chevy, that was 72.
Yes, well, 70. Yeah, there was a couple, 2 years of it, and it was an insurance buster. You couldn't get a 454, but a 402 was possible, and a 3-speed manual. We had those for Jackson. It was an unrestored car. Like what the? But the 4-speed triggered a surcharge. That was the thing. So a lot of guys go for the 3-speed.
There was a guy that used to hang with us that had a 402 3-speed heavy Chevy. Yeah. I remember that car like it was yesterday.
Yeah. But about the if you actually want to see a 402 air cleaner sticker, certain pickup trucks have that. Otherwise, the passenger cars, I don't think the 402 sticker was ever acknowledged. I was always as 396, but pickup trucks, actually, there's a 402 sticker
I
on
don't
the
recall seeing that.
yeah, on pickup trucks. They're going to be bone stock, But yeah,
Okay.
that was the only time. That was the only time it was acknowledged that I'm aware of. Yeah, on trucks.
Okay. Kathy's over here monitoring the.
It's a
Wow.
little hard because I can't hear Steve. It's a little hard because I can't.
I know
hear
you
Steve,
can't hear Steve. That's a lip read.
Okay.
Or Steve can use sign language. Yeah, Steve, can you sign for Kathy? Yeah.
It's about the extent of it. That's about as good as it
There you
gets.
go.
This is a good question. Rapid Transit Garage. In your opinion, what is the most underrated muscle car?
Wow. You go first, Tony.
Oh, jeez.
Underappreciated or underrated? That's
Underrated.
yeah. In other words, we're calling 500 horsepower 200 horsepower. Now that's underrated. But so I don't know. I guess underrated would be the populace not appreciating it. Let's go with that angle. Maybe.
I'm going to say the one car, and I keep talking about this car because it left an impression on me, right? I had a 72 Roadrunner 400 4-speed that through the stock exhaust manifolds, full exhaust had a back bumper, bare stripper, 355 gear, 4-speed. That car, after just tuning it, I got 1280s out of it.
Wow.
Right? Now you talk to people about a 400 Mopar, and right away they're like, "Oh, that's a boat. That's a boat anchor. It's
Motor.
dump truck motor. Whatever you want to call it." People have no respect for that motor, but that was the quickest and fastest stock Mopar. When I say stock, I mean exhaust manifolds, nothing, no add-on parts, just working with the stuff that the car was born with. 1280s at like 104 miles an hour. That was the quickest and fastest stock Mopar I've ever owned, I've ever driven, and I would say probably the most underrated muscle car that I could think of.
Yeah. I think for me, the 64 and 65 race Hemi sedans, of which a handful were made, but they were rarely acknowledged by anybody. But if you think about that, a 64 tri-power GTO is a quaint joke compared to an aluminum front fender, magnesium front rim 64 Dodge sedan. I mean, those are astonishing with single exhaust, but they have caps you uncork. So a lot of lip service, a lot of in jokes built into that car. The aluminum nose on the 64 race Hemi sedan it should be the pinnacle muscle car of the planet in my eyes. It makes a 409 Chevy look silly.
I always said that about I always said that about the 62 Max Wedge cars.
Yes.
Because the goat gets the 64 goat and really the 442 is just under it flies under everybody's radar. But the GTO and the 442 get the credit for being the first muscle cars, intermediate cars, right? But really it was the Max Wedge. It was a 62 Max Wedge, which you didn't have to special order. You could just go any dealership, fill out the paperwork, give them the cash, they drop it off. That's it, done. So I always felt that the 62 Max Wedge cars are the ones that are really underrated. Those are the true first intermediate big block muscle cars.
And the 62 B body is a smaller, lighter thing than the 63 or 64. The 62 was truly about as pared down as it got for a B body, and they're ugly as hell and beautiful at the same time. I've got one, a 4-door.
I know. I love your car, man. I love your car.
Yeah, when it warms up, I'll dig in on that thing. Right now, I'm frozen.
The 62s are the closest to an A body because the 62 is the first B body was when they stretched. They took all of the dimensions of the Valiant and Lancer body, right, and they just stretched everything in 2 and 3 and 4 inches. Here, there, and the other place. And that was the birth of the B body. And you could really see on the 62 cars, you can really see the lineage, that connection to the first gen, to the Valiant Lancer.
Yeah.
Two Hacks Garage. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. Steve, what was the most unique anomaly you have discovered for engines in Mopars during the 60s and 70s?
I think for me, the aluminum slant 6 program is one of the most overlooked and strange things. You think about this, 1962 and 3, I guess 55,000 A body only, never B bodies, never trucks, never vans or anything like that. But about 55,000 cars were equipped with an aluminum block slant 6, 225, no 170s, nothing like that. They're all tall decks. With that said, there was no sticker, no emblem, no nothing acknowledging that it had aluminum hard. Kind of weird, It was like I think a $63 option. The radio was more, and it's just a strange thing. You see them. I've seen maybe 4 or 5 in my life. I've owned a couple, got one running. They're very susceptible to head gasket failure. If you have one that they have freestanding cylinder bores. When those things erode at the tops, they can't pinch the gasket well, so they blow gaskets quick. If you get a good one, treat it like it's made of glass. But with that said, the aluminum slant six program was to me one of the more overlooked things. Now, only one barrel. They never did a hyper pack. But if you look at things like Jim Nelson's Dragmaster Dart Dragster, that had an aluminum slant six with Webers, and you look at the block. If you don't see freeze plugs, but rather like the shape of the cylinder bores going up and down, that's an aluminum block. If you spot them in old magazines, many of those old cars, but the Petties, the hyper packs, those were iron block cars, not aluminum, because that motor would not.
Well, 1961 only, you could have ordered an aluminum motor in the Valiant or the Lancer and gotten a dealer-installed hyperpack, because 61 was the last year for the direct drive starter.
Okay.
And the back exhaust header, because the hyperpack had two separate, it was 3 into 1, right? 2 3 into 1 exhaust manifolds. And the one for the rear 3 cylinders will not clear a Chrysler gear reduction starter. Okay. So 61 was the last year for the direct drive starter, which has one less tooth on the Bendix than the earlier one. So it's a different flywheel. So 1961 only, you could have gone and ordered an aluminum block slant in either a Valiant or a Lancer and had a dealer installed hyperpack.
But it would have been
the only year.
Yeah, it would have involved dealer. And I misspoke a second ago. 63, it's 61 and 2 on the aluminum stuff, not 62 and 3, but indeed. Right. But yeah, it just, the hyperpack stuff. And, a guy named Doug Dutra, sort of an unsung hero in the world of slant sixes, smart dude, but he was one of the first to reproduce the hyperpack intake manifold. He combined with the guys at Clifford, and there's maybe, 100 or 200 of those things made. And, demand's been met, I hate to say it. And of course now, what is it? Aussie Speed. Yeah, they're making some nice manifolds. So if you're in a slant sixes, I won't say that we haven't had better times, but they're popular. And the beauty of that is you can buy a slant six for $100 and then go to town on it. So that's a nice thing.
It's funny, man. The slant six thing. You go back to those when I was doing those magazines, 1985, 6, 7, right, 8. There was a guy who sold ads in there. You'll probably find him on the masthead. His name was Dan Gallo.
Dan Gallo.
Okay, you know him, right? You know him.
Yeah. His son, Dan Jr., is still selling ads at Mopar Action today. I got an email from him.
Me.
Yeah, he's very involved.
Something years later.
Yeah, Dan Sr. is still alive. He's a little old. He's alive and doing well. And Dan Jr. is he's the guy who sells ads for Mopar Action to this day, and also a big train enthusiast. Takes photographs.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
good
right.
dude. But
well, Dan was one of the higher ups in the Slant Six Club of America, and we thought that was just the silliest thing in the world.
Yes,
I know, because there was still Slant Sixes everywhere. Chrysler was still actually making them in 1987. They were putting them in pickup trucks.
Yeah.
So we thought that was just the silliest thing in the world. The Slant Six Club of America. And I used to rag Dan about that all the time. And now look at me. I'm like the Slant Six freak. I can't get enough slant six.
And there's a guy in that club called Hemi Anderson. That's really his name. Really? Six Club, they're not big on Hemis and six packs and stuff. They stay in their corner, which is cool, But it is interesting. I remember Dan Gallo had a 64 Dodge Polara, maybe a
That's right. I remember that car.
All over the place. Yeah, slant six powered. I think he might have put a poly in there eventually or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's Dan Gallo.
I remember that car, the black one with a red interior. I remember that thing. He used to bring it to all. Yeah, we would all be there with our big block this and our, and here comes Dan wheezing up with his little slant six. It only took me a half a century to come around and appreciate the damn thing.
I have to say, I used to hate 61, 2, 3, the Valiants, those first Valiants. I hated the things. I thought they were so ugly. Was when I was a little kid. They scared me, especially, I don't know what it was, the gas and brake pedal with those octopus things, you know what I mean? When I was a little kid, they freaked me out, something about them. And those are also like 1950, 54, like Ramblers with the cars with no wheel openings. And I always thought they looked like the old lady driving to hit a curb and the wheel gets smacked in 3 inches. But they have to have narrow wheel tracks to get so you can get the tires to steer and take them off. So those old AMC Ramblers with the skirted wheel, when I was a little kid, they frightened me. I don't know what it is. A psychiatrist could probably figure that out. But now I love them. It's funny how, and I eat eggs. I used to hate eggs. Now I like eggs. So go figure.
I can't eat eggs. I can't eat eggs. I can eat them as an ingredient, but I can't eat an egg by itself. I get freaked out by it.
Yeah, scrambled eggs are good. Yeah, I don't go to sunny side. I don't want to think about it.
Somebody just asked. Let me just scroll up here real quick. Sean Fagan, why did they stop making the direct drive starters? They would struggle in certain situations. It's like hot starts on big blocks. They would struggle. But oddly enough, Chrysler kept the direct drive starter all the way through 1969 in two different engines, 2 different packages. If you ordered a taxi package, they had a thing called New York City Taxi Package. And what it consisted of is it was a 4-door sedan with a deeper floor pan. It had a different floor pan, 2 inches lower, and a direct drive starter on the Slate 6. And that was up until 1969. And then they also used the direct drive starter on the 426 Hemi cars. Not this, 426 4-speed, not the 64, 65 cars. The 64, 65 cars got gear reduction starters, but the 66, 67, 68, 69 4-speed street Hemi had a direct drive starter. And all of the others, the automatics had a gear reduction. In 1970, they went across the board to the gear reduction.
Yeah.
So a lot of them just Mopar starter trivia. I don't know why I know so much about these freaking things.
Yeah. And to your point about the New York City floor reduction, apparently the Hearst did that stuff.
Yeah, Hearst did the conversions.
The conversion stuff in Michigan, Brighton, Michigan, whatever it was. But yeah.
Well, Amblewagon did a lot of those conversions also. But Hearst, as far as I know, Hearst did most of the taxi package cars. DD Speed Shop, what's happening, man? My brain can't absorb all this information. That's because your hair's too long. Cut your freaking hair, man. He's a hippie. I'll never understand that type. What do we got? By the way, hey, just an aside, 2 things. The first is, right, does anybody know what's happened with zip ties? Our friend from Canadistan? Zip ties and bias plies. He's a YouTuber from Canada. And from what I'm hearing, he ran into a problem out at the protests over there.
Oh.
So if anybody has any information on that, would you please throw it out there so that we can get up to speed, and maybe we do free zip ties, something or other, right? He's a great guy. He's awesome. What's that?
DD says he's all good.
He's all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, forget about freeing zip ties. Let him to hell with him. The second thing, guys, I'm looking for a single. I need one 19 cents. Very specific now, okay? Very specific. I guess that was saying very specific. I need one 1968 or 1969 3-3 HP piston. I need one, okay? A 67 will not do. A 70 will not do. A 68, 69, 3-3 2 barrel will not do. It has to be 1968, 1969, 3-3, 335 horse, say Roadrunner Super B engine, Charger engine, okay? I need one of those pistons. So if you have one, please get a hold of us at Uncle Tony's Garage at gmail.com. Put in the subject line, put piston. Tell me what you got to get for the thing. But I need one, and I need one kind of quickly. So if you've got one, please, guys, let me know. Okay. All right. Back to our normally scheduled programming. Okay. All right. Otto 1303. Tony, Steve, would you consider 80s Chrysler as the pioneer of turbo force for economy and performance across product line, as others do today?
Well, yes and no. You got to remember the Saab Turbo in 1978. A friend of mine in school, his dad had one, and it hauled ass.
I remember those cars.
Saab, But the one crazy thing, the first year, I think 77 was the first year, the little 99 forward to the bigger one, and the wheels on those things were perfect for opening a Heineken. You get the bottle caps, you get off the wheel, this little slot was perfect. Anyway, not enough. Yeah, the Saab Turbo might have been the first mass-produced turbo four-banger that was sold here. Now, Chrysler, almost a decade later, I think it was 86 or 85, one of those two, that the Turbo 2.2 arrived.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it might have even been 84.
yeah, it was. Yeah, the Turbo arrived. It was a little later than it might seem, but anyway, I got my trusty this doohickey right here. But it was. But anyway, that was Chrysler certainly. I mean, to me, it was garlic to a vampire, because to me, when Chrysler went all front wheel drive, I mean, I get it. These are cool little cars and all that stuff, but the trouble is this goofy little thing in the back called the tag axle. I'm backwards here, but yeah, that thing, whatever.
Yep.
I got it, but I didn't get it. They were not selling to me. I remember you said the 5-liter Mustang. You wanted one. You wished it was a Roadrunner because it was the closest thing. You wrote that. But
Well, it reminded me of a Roadrunner, just the way there was a guy in front of me driving one. Actually, it was alongside me, and he pulled out ahead of me, and he banked second, and he tripped second, and the back of the car scooted out. And he says, "Oh my God, it's a Roadrunner, but it's a Mustang, right?"
Yeah. But I remember the Charger 2.2 and stuff like that. They had their place. They were certainly very interesting. Yeah, 84. You're right. Turbo 4 first 1984. There she blows.
I had a Plymouth Caravelle, which is a car that wasn't supposed to have a Turbo 4 in it, but it had a Turbo 4. You remember that car? The Plymouth Caravelle. We had that for a while. Always having electrical issues with it.
Was it light blue?
Yes, it was light blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Caravelle. Yeah.
Arthur Fiddler, Tony, I didn't say what pistons, oversized. Okay, not oversized. I need standard bore. That's why it's a problem. I can get oversized pistons all day long. I can't find a standard bore. I need one standard bore 1968, 69, 3D3 HP piston. One. Yes, a used piston is perfect. As long as like the ring lands are okay, and there's no cracks on the thing. Yeah, man, one is perfect.
There's your
Yeah. Yeah, what a nightmare that thing was.
Basically, the Dodge Aries, it was sort of the second gen of the K car when they got a little bigger,
that was my first exposure to the body control module. Okay, and that was one of the things that really started to turn me against electronically controlled cars. It was that car and the body control module and the stupid, crazy things that would happen that started really turning me against, John Wilburn, thank you, John. You have to send a super chat for that. Are the 3-3 pistons different for the 330? No, the pistons are the same. The only difference between the 330 and 335 horse is the exhaust manifolds.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we at? Kathy, we've got dead air.
I know, I'm sorry, but I can't hear your conversation, so I'm having a hard time.
I was just going to say one thing.
Out comments.
Go ahead, Steve.
The Caravelle, as we know, was the first altered wheelbase. I shouldn't say that, but the Reliant had a 100-inch wheelbase. The Caravelle had 3 inches more, and they gave it a new name, a little more interior room. But from the firewall forward, same basic K car, front-wheel drive. Crab crawler. I used to call them. You just drag its tail down the road. But they're good cars. I had a Reliant. That I almost got killed in, actually. I had a guy came around a corner going 70 miles an hour, slid backwards right at me. So I was able to drive up onto a berm out of his way. He still hit me in my A-pillar. It would have been head to tail. It would have been a bad day for Steve. But my little Acclaim got destroyed. But with that said, the K cars are great little winter cars, and then clean ones now are starting to heat up. I think there was a Town and Country went for $20,000, a convertible. At Barrett Jackson, we used a turbo car. I was like, wow, it's the first car on Thursday.
The next town over, the next city over from, I'm in Murfreesboro, right? And if you go 10 miles past my shop, you end up in a town called Franklin, which is a very, you've heard of Franklin, right?
Kevin Gates lives up there, right on. Yeah, Franklin, Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the number 7 it's the number 7 high quality. What's that? Don't tell anybody.
No.
Yeah.
Quality of living and yeah.
It's known throughout the world as like a very high quality place. So I know. Don't worry about it. So as you drive,
I'm leaving. I'm moving. I'm coming tonight. I'm moving out. Okay.
Well, I'm going to talk about it right now. But as you drive into Franklin, there's on the Highway 96 on the right, there's a pristine midnight blue, like a dark blue K car.
Oh.
It's like kind of parked prominently in their driveway, like it's like their pride and joy. You know what I mean? And this is a town that has like an average income of like $500,000, right? And that's it, man. You go in there, and the first car you really take notice of as you pull into the town is a K car.
Yeah.
Eddie wants to know when you need to.
Edward Gomez, my old buddy Edward Gomez. How soon do I need the piston? I needed it yesterday, man. I need it yesterday.
And Tony, I'm guessing the difference is that instead of the 9, it's got a different crown height, correcto, on the high performance 3-3 piston. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it has a slightly on paper it has a slightly positive deck height. That they're supposed to sit 12, I believe it's 12 thousandths above deck. They don't. They usually zero out.
Yeah.
But yeah, on paper it's the only positive, aside from the 426 Hemi, it's the only positive deck height or positive deck piston in the Chrysler. 3 Timo Run, how are you doing, my brother? I used to cause havoc with front-wheel drive turbo cars. There's a lot of people that do. Have you seen, we've talked about this before, I know we have. Have you seen this guy, Gary Donovan? He's got a K car. It runs like bottom 10s. Yeah. The last time I talked to him, and this thing looks stock. Yeah. This thing looks stock. And the last time I talked to him, he said that he was, and this is maybe 3 years ago now, that he was heading for the 9s with this thing. He's getting single digits out of it.
Yeah, there's sleepers, great sleepers, Yeah, I mean, it's not pooping on them at all. But I just remember, the roots of those things was economy. When Chrysler was crawling out of the government debt and they had to make small cars, that's the reality of it. They were great cars, but they weren't from Chrysler's proudest moments. But they were great cars, absolutely. And without them, we wouldn't have anything today. There are bricks in the chimney, very important. That's what I always say.
Very important.
Without them, we'd be screwed. But yeah.
Oh, Eddie says you got a couple of weeks. Bro, do you realize how old we are? Either one of us could stroke out any minute now, and you want to go for a couple of weeks? See what you can do, bro. See what you can do. I really need this thing. Need metal. Thank you, sir. Nice. Thank you for the super chat. The trend now for drivers' cars is naturally aspirated. Forced induction has become less desirable, especially with front-wheel drive. Longevity suffers too. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. The engine management these days is so tight and it's so tied in with everything else that, in the old days, definitely. I remember driving those early turbo cars, and the torque steer was crazy. You know what I mean? You're all over them. I don't think they have that anymore. I don't think that's really an issue. I think that they've got everything tight.
I will say one time, Tom Hoover, the chief engineer on the Hemi program, certainly one of the principals, he did say, there was a thing at the Chrysler Museum, was a Hemi celebration back in 98 or whatever it was when the Hemi came back, 04, 03, whatever, I don't know, 02, whatever.
04.
Yeah.
05.
Yeah, and Hoover was saying that basically his back in the 60s, when the injected Hilborn stuff and the cross rams were surpassed by supercharged match racers, wherein a Chevy or an FE Ford with a blower could run around an injected Hemi. He said that he didn't see that as the same kind of a fight. He says that the art of a naturally aspirated air pump was what he was in there fighting for. He says you throw a blower on anything or a turbo or on anything. Well, I get that. Now Hoover was, his thing was that it takes art to make a naturally aspirated engine really haul ass. A blower can make anything haul ass. Look at the Slant 6 cars. With that said, they're all valid. They're all valid.
But you see, I agree with that mentality, that Tom Hoover mentality. And because, I've got the Plan Z car, which we're putting together live next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We'll be assembling the motor, putting it in the car, firing it up, and doing a burnout next Saturday live, on Saturday and Sunday. I can't give you an exact schedule on it, but it'll be over the weekend. People are like, oh, you got to put a nitrous bottle on there. Oh, you got to put a supercharger. You got to put a turbocharger. No, the whole point of that car is I want to see how fast it can go with just a normally aspirated slant, just applying science and massaging and voodoo to the slant without any power adders. That's the fun. To me, that's where the fun is, Yeah, it's not about going fast. It's not how fast you go, it's how you go fast. Going fast is just a matter of money. How much money do you have? Do you have $100,000? Do you have $100 million? It's like, that's how fast you can go. But how you go fast, you know what I mean? Right? That's the interesting part. So that's why I like normally aspirated things like that Slant 6. To me, that's the whole thing. It's like, can I find a half a horsepower here? Can I find another 2 horsepower there? Where are these things hiding? You know what I mean? How can I get them all to work together? That's the fun of it.
It's funny you should say that. Back when I was at Hot Rod Magazine for about 7 years, and I brought in a couple of Slant 6 engine builds, and Doug Dutra came down to El Monte, California, to my home, and he brought a bunch of stuff. We built an engine together. He was actually lapping in the gears to the oil pump to reduce the possibility of failure and or drag. I'm thinking, Doug, why are you bothering? He says, there might be a half a horsepower here at 5,000 RPM. I said, I get that, So, I mean, lapping in the gears of a Slant 6 oil pump, it's all fair game. It all adds up if you got the time.
If you have the desire, right?
Yeah.
That you have the desire. You don't do something like this because you want to be the biggest, baddest dog on the block, because you're not going to be. You do it because you're racing yourself. You're racing yourself. Every time you take the car, it's like what I used to do with the Mustang. I didn't care who or what was in the other lane, unless it was one of the races you have a couple of hours or something like that. I could care less who's in the other lane. I care about beating my last time. You know what I mean? And it's like, and that's when you start looking at the time slip, and it's that third digit or the fourth digit on the time slip that starts to like, oh my God, 1341 with a 2, and better than 1341 with a 4. Yes, you know what I mean? It's an improvement. Mike Fredericks, did you know Sal Zeno? Yes, from Mopar Action Magazine in the 90s. Did you know Sally Drano?
I knew the name. That's it, from reading it. That's all. Yeah, I didn't know him. Was he a real guy? Because a lot of times in those magazines, you didn't know the Brunsnowski brothers, or I didn't know who was who. So he was a real guy, right?
Well, it was the Zeno brothers, and they were real, and they had a Corvette shop. They used to do Corvettes. But yeah, Sal wrote for Sal was buddies with Cliff Grover, and I don't know if he's still around or not. I mean, Sal was probably 20 years older than I was back in the 80s. So he would be in his 80s now if he's still alive. But yeah, he was real. He was real.
Okay.
John Yeager, thank you for the super chat, John. Why didn't Chrysler offer different HP versions of, say, the 383 HP as Chevy did with the 396?
That's an interesting question. And we all know that there was 1 year the 396 could be had with a 2-barrel. That was 1969. It was like a wagon motor, Right. But with that said, you got to remember that in the early 60s, the 383 could be had with a single 4-barrel, a 2-barrel, dual quads, a long ram. The long ram. So in the before 1964, there were 5 or 6 different flavors of 383. But it is true, once they stabilized on the 383, the 330 and the 335 or 325, you know what I mean? And they didn't really shift it up. Whereas, yes, the 396 was like 6 different varieties, from the L78 to the little, I think what they call it, 2-barrel engine. But it's a good question. Don't know. Maybe they just figured, how many darts do we throw at the dartboard? Maybe 5 dozen. I don't know.
See, you talk about okay, so somebody before was asking about underrated performance cars, underrated performance packages. The 343 horse 383 from 1962 is definitely underrated. It's more of a 385 to 400 horsepower combination, but they rated it. It's a 343 horse 383. It was a stock eliminator or it was a stock eliminator package car.
A lot of the time.
The wagons, right? My friend Jimmy Vinonia has a wagon called the Behemoth that was a factory 343 horse 383 race car. So that's definitely one of the underrated ones. When we talk about the Chevys and the multiple performance levels of them, I was thinking of the 327. There are so many incarnations of the 327. Performance motors, much more so than the 386.
Right, fuelies. Everything. Yeah.
Neat Metal, thank you for the super chat, man. Check out GM's latest efforts. Last hurrah for internal combustion engine performance, naturally aspirated. Yeah. I should be familiar with. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'll say this. When I was at Barrett Jackson just recently in Scottsdale, they did $220 million in business. But anyway, with that said, outside
because of you. Because of you, man.
Because of me. Yeah, I got my 1%. No, whatever. No. But anyway.
Did they give you 1%?
Yeah, I'm glad to be there a lot. But anyway, outside there's a manufacturer's Midway, and Chevrolet brought their new ZR1 Corvette engine, and it was sliced in half. No push rods. So Chevy has gone back to, or rediscovered, whatever you want to call it, overhead cams, overhead, dual valves, or twin cam 4 valves. So basically, it's like a Ford Camry, but with a lot of science. So yeah, if you get a chance, look at a cutaway of the new ZR1 Corvette engine. It's amazing. It's only, 5.2 liters or something like that. It's flat plane. It's like a Voodoo, Ford Voodoo motor. Chevy's been there. The ZR1 in the early 90s was also a no pushrod engine, but they're back to that again.
It's funny because Ford, right, which has been the overhead cam people since the 60s, right, which I never understood. I'm like, why, right? Finally they bring the Godzilla motor out and it's a push rods, right?
I know.
And Chevy's like, no, overhead cams. And it's like,
right. It's the game of ping pong. This weird thing.
Right.
Now, I got to say, the Ford modular motor. I got a 4.6 4-valve 4-cam Mach 1 engine in my Fairmont. I always say, how can something so big be so small?
Right.
It's 281 cubic inches. It's larger than a street Hemi by half an inch in terms of width. It's like, what the heck, But
they are beautiful engines.
Yeah. The 4 valves, the 3 valves and 2 valves to me are kind of they're cool, but I say give me a 5.7 LT1 any day over a 4.6 taxi motor. They do their thing, but there's no torque until you get to $4,000.
I see. This is a good question. I want to pick you. I'm going to shut up and listen to you. All right. Do you think car prices on Barrett-Jackson were high?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Anytime there's a gathering of well qualified bidders. Certainly a lot of things that we see happen at auction, 300,000 for a Bronco. There's 2 people or more who want that thing and they're very able to pay for it. Does that mean they'll be able to sell it for that money tomorrow? Maybe, probably not. Who knows? Does it matter? Do they care? In some cases, probably not. It must be nice. But with that said, I'm happier to see things like this than, selling Hemi Cudas for $800 to guys who want to paint them green and turn them into tractor pullers. That happened. You know what I mean? So, it's just, I won't say that it's, in a way, it makes cars less accessible, but it also just puts it more on you to pay the guy what it's worth, or to haggle and say, yeah, but this is not, like the one at Barrett-Jackson sold for $3 million. Yeah, but it wasn't on fire and it's not upside down and it's not full of rust. Yours is that way, sir. You just have to negotiate harder. But yeah, it is. The prices were high. It's a signal of a very strong economy. And but I will say that it's a thing where are those prices repeatable? Yeah, next January in Scottsdale. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to watch. I'm the last guy to ask what anything is worth. But it's a good sign that the hobby is appreciated versus clunkers, crush bills, and that whole thing about getting these old clunkers off the road, which was 20 years ago.
You say your opinion is that it's a sign of a good economy, and my opinion is that it's a sign of a collapsing economy.
Well, there might be that too. People investing in cars versus anything else, the stock market, that kind of thing. You can see it many ways. Yeah. I mean, the other side, it is interesting to note that if your stock portfolio loses 40% overnight, well, your car might lose 40% overnight because it's still all there, which is nice,
Well, I mean, you could pile into Bitcoin and Bitcoin could disappear. Like, where's my Bitcoin? Oh, it's gone. Where did it go? Well, to the same place it came from, nowhere, right? But the car, you take that same money, you put it in the car. At least no matter what happens, well, there's the car. It's a tangible. It's a tangible item.
And we've seen it before. There are ups and downs. There are cycles. There's a down coming, but the good thing about a down is you get to have an up. That's what happens, So it's the usual. Things are up and down and up and down, up and down. Just if you can weather the storm and don't overextend yourself. That's basics of living, I think.
Steve, what did you see in the way of like normal cars? So in other words, like not specialty cars, not not muscle cars or particularly rare cars. What did you see going on there in terms of like people having just clean Survivor, let's say Olds Cutlasses or Chevy Malibus or what did you see there?
Yeah, well, there's the late model prestige car, like the 2006 BMW, 530 or whatever it might be. Those late model prestige cars, generally, if they're being sold in Arizona, are worth having because they're from an Arizona dealer or somewhere they're rust-free, in other words, right? Well, if you buy that same car in New England, it probably is a New England car, which is to say it has probably corrosion. So the late model prestige cars, I would say more often than not, bring at least book at Barrett-Jackson. But again, those are late model prestige cars. You might call them fillers. That's what I call them. But with that said, pure examples of anything that's unmodified, like an 81 Malibu or whatever it might be.
Right.
It'll bring respectable money. It's no longer a used car. They're now on their way up. And one thing that's going crazy right now is unmolested Supras, 280Zs, 240Zs, Jap cars.
I can see that.
And I get it, and Trans Ams, the stuff we used to laugh at, the disco mobiles, they didn't have power, but they certainly had image, they had presence, they had handling, they had brakes, they had tires, wheels. Now it's $20 grand anyway for a Trans Am anyway. you're going on up to 120 in some cases, So I understand that. It's, I guess we're now at the age where we used to hear people say, you could buy 57 Chevys for $50. No way, we'd say. Well, now if you live long enough, you get everything, fill in the blank. We get to have that experience. And here we are now with like a Toyota Supra, a nice clean Supra. I think, I don't know, 50 grand or something like that, which I'm like, that was like a $800 car. Not 800, but 3,000.
Right.
So if it's, but the other side of the coin is most cars, they don't survive unmolested. And when you find them, it's a special thing. And so people are understanding that. It's just a new crop has arrived, and that's cool.
Now, you talk about those late model limited specialty cars. You were hanging out with Hoovy.
Yeah, Tyler Hoover. Yes, good dude. Yeah,
right. And that's his whole thing is to buy those cars and take an absolute slaughtering on them.
Yeah, and show how not to
right.
Leading by example. Yeah.
He's made himself a wealthy YouTuber by buying bad cars and making bad decisions. I mean, God bless him. He's the only one of his kind he is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think that the car that put him on the map was when he bought that, what the hell was it? The, not the Merkur, the goofy, the German thingamajig there, the big, the Maybach, he bought a Maybach. Yeah. For like $10,000 and showed how it can drain your bank account. But anyway, yeah, that was a good video. Good series.
Torino Elite. Good evening, gentlemen. Third gen Chevy and Pontiac cars are making good money here in the UK now. What's happening there in the States with them? What do you mean by third gen exactly? Because
probably talking Camaros and Firebirds. Yeah, probably Gen 3 Firebird Camaro stuff.
Okay, Chevy and Pontiac.
82 to 92, whatever it is. Yeah. But yeah, same thing here. Yeah, IROCs, 1LEs, GTAs, Trans Am turbos, 89s. They're hot. Yeah,
I'm surprised those cars that there were even survivors of those cars. I remember, I was in a regular mechanic world when those things came out, and I remember there were all sorts of bulletins about towing them because if you hooked them in the wrong place in the back, you'd rip the subframe out.
Yeah.
And it was like, honestly, those were like the first cars that I remember registering to me as like really Dixie cups.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this nothing here is going to last. This is like, use this up and throw it away. And it was like stuff like that. They were having all kinds of crazy electrical issues with those cars back then. It was like the dawn of the computer era when things were really starting to get going. It was still simple compared to today. But I remember very distinctly how tow companies were like, they had to treat those cars with kid gloves. Because if you hook them up like you did an old car, you drag them up from the back, you'd rip the subframe out.
Yeah, they were interesting. They were built to be light, and that was the thing. Fuel emissions or fuel economy, the CAFE thing, led to so much Mickey Mouse engineering. It's it is what it is. But it also showed Detroit how to be light and get rid of road hugging weight. In other words, that excuse for metal where it doesn't have to be. And it was a win-win.
They were still heavy though, comparatively. Compared to like the Mustangs.
Yeah.
Joe K says. Where do you see the value of these new muscle cars going as time marches on? GM, LT, Hellcats, 5.0 Coyotes, factoring in survivability, desirability, capability, and electric cars being faster.
More of the same. Electric cars are cool and stuff like that, but they're a different category. And I will say this, that in the 80s, there was this whole thing about downsizing, front wheel drive, and look what happened in the 90s. SUVs, gasoline, gas swilling vehicles that are better, they're cleaner. But with that said, I think a good chunk of the electric thing right now is hype. It's positive thinking, and it's hype, and it's hype, and it's hype. And what I mean by that is I love them. They deserve to be here. But if you freeze frame Route 40 going through Tennessee, freeze frame, when every one of those vehicles can recharge at the same time, we're ready. We're not there. We're a decade from that. If you look at, so there's a tip of the spear, and we're watching it. It's very bright, but don't ignore the bottom of the spear, which is very wide and very dark, and it's gas. So
now I've talked about some of the downfall, and again, I'm not anti-electric car in and of their own device. And if you choose to have an electric car, fine, man, go for it. It fits you. It fits your lifestyle. I don't care, right? I'm not an environmentalist. I wish I was an environmentalist. I wish I had a place in me that cared, but I really don't. So I'm just a gearhead. So to me, it's just another form of propulsion. Either drive electric, drive gasoline. I could care less. But it's the fact that they try to force the electric thing down our throat. But now you see, I'm getting the last laugh on this stuff because you've got, lithium-ion fires are out of control. Okay, you can't put them out. They don't go out with water. They have to have special containment devices to put these. They have fire departments are ordering these containment devices specifically for electric car fires because you put it out and then 6 hours later, the next day, it goes up again. You can't put the damn things out. So now this is the second time this is happening. Right now, as we sit here right now, there's a container ship with 4,000 Volkswagens on it. Volkswagens, Porsches, I think there's a couple of Bentleys on there. It's on fire. There's 4,000 of these cars. Picture this now, right? Wrap your head around this. 4,000 brand new cars on fire.
Open the C valves. Let it sink. Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do, really.
Yeah, right.
There's 4,000 of them right now on fire, floating there in the sea. They rescued the crew. Everybody got off and they were okay. Okay. It all started with an EV.
Yeah.
An EV on the container ship. There's a bunch of EVs on there, but one of them decided, well, now is the time to go up in flames, and it took out 4,000 brand new cars. Who's paying for this?
Yeah.
These aren't like, they're not like $4,500 used cars. These are $75,000, $100,000 cars. That's 4,000 of them. God. And this is the second time. There was another incident about 2 years ago where an EV caught fire in one of these ships. And this time it was 2,000 cars that went down and killed 5 crew members on the container. So it's like the EV thing is like they keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it.
It's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype. And everything. Well, vehicle safety was enforced by the government. I mean, Detroit was like, seatbelts are a bad idea. It reminds people their cars are dangerous. So, 1965, I think, was the first year that seatbelts were mandatory in cars. Corvettes had them in 57. But with that said, sometimes a little government pushing is okay. A little. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. But with that said,
well, the part of the thing is about seatbelts, though, they're still optional. I don't wear seatbelts. I just don't wear them. I wear them if I feel that I'm going to do something where I'm in danger. I'm going to go fast or I'm going to drive something I'm not crazy about or sketchy.
Yeah, the car won't shut off without them at this point, which is cool. It should be up to people. I guess just the idea of being told what to do, is not cool.
Nobody tells me what to do.
Yeah.
Nobody tells me what to do.
One thing I'm happy to point out is, we have General Motors and Ford are like all about the green, happy future, electrics and stuff. Look at Dodge with the Chief Donut Maker program. And there's an ad on television, not like on a cable TV, but just television with Goldberg talking about it could be you. You get $150,000 to have fun. You get a Hellcat all year to do social media. So Dodge is going Hail Mary on high performance. And there are electric cars coming with a performance angle, because I think it was Alfred P. Sloan said you can sell a young man's car, but you'll never sell an old man's car to a young man, right? So that said, the electric thing, you gotta do it right. But beyond all that, gasoline right now, Dodge is leading the way with fun cars, and they're reaping the benefits of sales. Meanwhile, General Motors and Ford, which are larger creatures for sure, are putting a lot of eggs in a very green basket, which might turn brown if and when the electric thing don't happen so much. So there's a lot of hype, and that's part of the picture always. In the 80s, remember downsizing, 4-bangers, front wheel drive. Everybody ran to downsize. The Regal, the Grand National went away to become the Regal Somerset, the front wheel drive, as the sun set on performance with the Somerset Regal. You know what I'm saying? And the stupid front wheel drive cars, the Monte Carlos with stupid front wheel drive crap. With that said, they sold, but they're not great cars. And then suddenly we come back and the cars got rear-wheel drive, and we have cycles. We never learn, which is awesome. I shouldn't say that. We're dirty in a clean way now. They say that like in California, if you the horrible old thing about the guy locking himself in the garage with trying to with the Corvette, you couldn't do it. It actually cleans the air around it. The new Corvette cleans the air around it on a smoggy day, and now it's at idle. But anyway, it's we're doing what we can to be responsible while living. Put it like that. But you can't just stop moving. You got to burn fuel. But the electric thing is, we'll see. It's a wait and see on my book. with that, but the modern stuff, Coyotes, GT350, GT500s, amazing stuff, instant collectibles. And yes, they will depreciate. But look at a Demon. You can't touch a Demon for anything resembling sticker anymore. They're way more, and they made 3,300 of those things. So there's a lot more people want one than they made. That's a So performance ain't dead. Don't listen to that ever, because again, you'll never sell an old man's car to a young man.
No, there will always be performance cars. Always.
Yep.
Right?
Fun sells.
But the question now is survivability. Okay. A car that, so I deal with 40, 50, 60-year-old cars, right?
Yeah.
You deal with 60-year-old cars. Okay?
Yeah, the screwdriver. I don't have a laptop. Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it's beyond laptop now. The point is, like, let's take your 62 Dodge, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Every single bit of that car, every component of it is self-serviceable. So let's just say, for example, the headlight switch takes a dump on you. You can open that headlight switch. You can clean the contacts. Yeah. You can put it back together again. It'll function. Okay. You can't do that with any modern car. Yeah. I can't see, let's say, going past the 10 to 15-year mark. There are so many cars. So let's just say, for example, your 62 Plymouth, 62 Dodge has 1,000 components in it that, when you add them all up, are what makes this car function. Okay. And a lot of them are completely independent of each other. So, like, for instance, if the charging system doesn't work, it'll still run off the battery. Yeah. All right. Just as an example, if the gauge cluster isn't working, it doesn't affect the car overheating. Right. So all of these systems are independent and repairable. Now you take the equivalent 2020 car, right? Your car has 1,000 parts that make it a car. This one has 45,000 parts that make it a car. And each of them are interrelated and intertwined through all of these different computers and the CAN bus system and everything else. And none of them are serviceable. There's nothing on a 2020 car that you could crack this open
remove and replace. Yeah.
Right. What are the chances that all of those parts are going to be available 15 years down the road?
I will say this, proximity sensors, rear backup cameras, the screen in the dash, all that stuff. And I'll say this too. Remember when that little rectangular box under the dash on an IROC Z or a 5.0 was this mystery thing? Man, we're screwed. When these cars crap out, we're going to be screwed. Well, no, there's an industry that arose to service that. I'm sure that'll happen with the modern stuff.
Well, actually, I agree with that 1,000%. But those cars from the 80s, and this goes back to the original topic that we were talking about, right? Old muscle versus new muscle. Those cars from the 80s and even into the 90s are still of a relatively simple design. The parts aren't all intertwined with each other.
I could see one of two things happening. Either there'll be, if it's legal, but a delete module, something that in 20 years' time allows you to eliminate the heads-up dash and go to an analog or something. Now, that may not be legal. It may not even make the car run. But with that said, right now there are a lot of cars that have all kinds of electronic crap. I've got a 2009 Volvo. I don't even care what year it is, but it has all this crap on the dash. It's lit up. I can still get an inspection sticker. That's cool. And the SRS lights on, all this crap's on. I just wear my seatbelt and drive the stupid thing. And I drive it with the title. So when it takes a crap in Fitchburg, I can leave it with the garage and just walk away. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you have like a new Coyote a Coyote Mustang in 20 or 30 years, I would say that the aftermarket, because the cars will be popular, the market solution will find itself. There will be people out there who will be able to sell you a replacement dash or module, whatever. I think the problem will solve itself. I'm not too worried, but it won't be something you do with a screwdriver. But then again, it's been a while since cars were that simple, and that problem has solved itself. I'm not an optimist, but I these cars won't become rotting hulks that are used for dog houses because they can't move under their own power. There'll be a solution to those problems. But with that said, it's not going to be as simple. Whenever I see cars with touch screens, all that stuff in the middle, I don't know where to begin. I ignore that crap because it's not me, and I don't really, I don't want to. I don't care what the weather, radio delete, right? So that's just me, and another thing too is a feature glut. There was an editorial in Motor Trend a year ago, and it's like an arms race between car dealers. Not that the customer wants this stuff, but our opposition has all this stuff. We got to keep outdoing, and it's feature glut, things that nobody used, but on the sales room floor, the salesman, hang on now, our Hyundai has this, that, and the other. That only has this and that. Oh, well, okay, says the customer. I'll take you. You know, that crap is going on. It's marketing. You know, it's
Well,
planning.
it's just, I don't know if you saw the video. I bought Kathy a Honda Super Cub yesterday,
Okay.
or a couple of days ago, right? So, are you familiar with the Honda Mini Motos?
I'm not.
Okay, Honda has been pushing hard the last couple of years to reintroduce a lot of their smaller models. So
Okay,
they have one called the Grom. It's like a half-size motorcycle with a
Oh, it's a bike.
125.
Okay, a bike.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
They have the Trail. You remember the Trail 90s, the Trail 70s?
Mini
Well, they
Trail.
brought that back. That was the Trail 125. They have a thing called the Monkey, which is like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they retro styled or are they kind of modern and stuff? Do they look old?
No. Yeah, they're all styled and everything off of the old bikes, and they reintroduced the Super Cup, which was originally built in 1858, right? And it's the song that the Beach Boys,
Yeah.
little Honda.
Honda. Yeah, left rear.
Right.
Yeah, I know the song.
Yeah. That's the bike that the Beach Boys wrote that song about.
First gear, hold on tight. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. Okay, so they brought you have to see this, Steve. It's a jewel. It's beautiful. It's like exactly from 1958. Even the color scheme that they put on there is 1958. But they upgraded the electronics, and it has a proximity key.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I bought the thing in spite of this, and I know it's going to fail. And when it fails, I'll retrofit something else. I'll bypass it completely. But why?
Yeah.
Why would you bring back this beautiful
So it's
little
this puppy
jewel
right here. Is that guy right there? Is that?
Yes, it's that one right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So proximity key. So maybe it's an anti-theft thing. Maybe it's to get the thing insured.
No. So on the other three bikes that Honda has in this lineup all have a regular key.
Okay.
But that particular one, they put the proximity key in. And it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're trying to market it towards the urban dweller, not totally non-gearhead, and it's like they keep up with the Jones thing. Oh, well, it has to have something modern, so here's a proximity key, right?
And maybe they're debuting a new technology on this that'll then trickle. Sometimes it's marketing. You know what I mean?
That's possible too.
That's
possible too. But like in my mind, it's just like, it's such a buzzkill. You have this totally vintage retro thing and then a proximity key. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just, but it is astonishing, really, that retro is as big as it is. I'm so thankful. I remember when the new Beetle came out, I was all for it. I was working in Hot Rod, and
I was crushed.
You didn't like it? Yeah.
I was crushed when that came out because I love old Beetles.
Yeah. Well, it was more of the same. I don't know. And the Thunderbird, the T-Bird wasn't so great. The Challenger, the Neo Retro. But I remember some people were saying, whatever happened to Detroit's their imagination? Well, when Detroit's the soap bar Camaro crap, that whole thing, and the Mustangs, the SN95 Mustang. No, man. In 05, when the Mustang came back with that beautiful fastback, retro it's just sometimes change happens too damn soon. And we don't realize it until we get things like the Mustang 2. You know what I mean? We realize, well, that was a stupid thing. Although they sold. They were the right car at the moment.
I like the Mustang 2s.
Yeah, no,
I thought they were pretty cool.
I know. But what I'm just trying to say that, everything old is new again. And that's cool. Like the Honda Cub, it's so cool that we're not like these. Back in the '80s, you and me were like the vocal minority saying, "Please, Detroit, build some cool cars again. Bring back the Hemi." And somehow, some way, it all happened. I don't think I had nothing to do with it. But with that said, I'm thrilled. So it's nice that things are pretty good. I would say the good old days are kind of right now, like the Honda Cub. With probably a 90-mile-an-hour capability. I don't know how fast that thing go.
Oh, no. It'll go 50, 55 on level ground with like a tailwind, but you hit a hill and it's 35 miles an hour and you're just pushing and pushing. Kind of like the old ones. That hasn't changed.
Okay. Yeah. But but the idea. Yeah, and the wheel looks kind of like spokes with their metal, they're cast. It's cool, but the old and the new. But so anyway, but one thing I got to say is, the modern muscle cars since the IROC and the LS1, they never got an axle. Well, Ford did. Well, I always keep an eye on that. Well, check this out. The new Camaro has Corvette has a 10-inch ring gear. The Hellcat has a 9.3-inch ring gear. The Dana 60 ain't the king no more. The 8 3/4 Chrysler, 8 3/4, and it's good. I always watch the 9.3. Well, like the Hellcats and stuff, 9.3. It's not a dinky little 7.5-inch nothing from a Mercedes. So the engineers are working from the back to the front. You're the one who said build your drag car from the back to the front. I used to read that in your writings, and it's true. If you break your axle, you could have 900 horsepower and you're a laughing stock. You just snapped your 10 bolt what's the point of that?
Well, we were in the Top Fuel days when I was partners on the car. This was in 1998. We were literally the last car out there with a 9-inch Ford. We had a nodular center section. We had gone to best to like 522, right? With a nodular 9-inch Ford. Everybody else had gone to the Crispin 10-inch.
Yeah, right. Those big.
So it's like now to see like a 10-inch in a Corvette. It's like that's crazy.
But it has to be there for power. In other words, and it is true that in some cases, they're getting by with dinky little stuff. Well, SUVs, take a look at like a Dodge or like a big Ford diesel trucks, pickups. Their axles are these massive, like 13-inch ring gears. In other words, that stuff will never trickle down. We're not going to have that's not going to wind up in a Camaro next year or anything like that. But it is cool that the drivetrain engineers are absolutely keeping up with the engine with better parts. The only downside is their independent stuff, the kind of weird, finicky stuff with half shafts and crap like that. But all that said, they pretty much hang in there, and they're up to the power being made, which is not something that was true in the 80s. I remember Grand Nationals had the 8.5-inch corporate axle, which was cool, but you had to steal one of those websites, to get the axle for your Monte Carlo SS, which came with the dinky 7.5.
Yeah,
so
373 gear.
Yeah, but it was still a little dinky thing. You put a 454 in that Monte Carlo. There was one guy, it was a 454 Monte Carlo SS. He had a Dana 60 made for the damn thing, which I thought was the coolest thing, back in 87 or 88, Dana 60 and a Monte Carlo SS. It wasn't factory, but the guy made it look like a factory.
My friend Levi Holmes had a street race car. It was bodied as, it was a tube car, but it was bodied as an SS. And this is back around 1988 or so, and he had a Dana 60 in that thing, which was like, how crazy is that? But I think as far as the future goes, you could be right. There could be people who manufacture standalone systems and standalone modules to run these cars. But I look at what Rich Rebuilds did with that Tesla. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I know Tesla's just rocking it out of the park.
Well, he LS swapped one.
Okay.
It was like,
all right.
The hell with the $20,000 battery, and he LS swapped the Tesla.
Yeah. It is, the electric stuff, it's, again, like I say, when you can freeze frame any traffic jam and every one of those cars can recharge at the same time. In other words, you can get gas at the same time. When we're there. Till then, it's half hype, half reality, but everything starts somewhere, and electric's cool. The only thing I do say is, it's going to be tough. These weird hybrid hubs with regenerating brakes and stuff. It's not like an 11-inch Roadrunner drum. It's going to take a whole other level of effort. But again, the aftermarket, I think the things they're made with enough reliability, they have to be. Detroit doesn't want to launch into the world, a 500,000 warranty problems. So they generally engineer the stuff so it's decent, put it like that. So it'll be fixable forever, I think, and I think
I have my doubts. If I had to speculate, if I had to pull out my crystal ball and say 20 years from now, and I'm not going to be around 20 years from now. You probably won't be. Well, maybe you will, right?
No.
You have a lot of hair left.
Yeah, I'm pulling the hell out of it, by the way, but go ahead.
If I had a crystal ball, I would say that if you want to be in the hot rodding modification, personalized machinery game, you're going to have to go two-wheel. I see a point in the not too distant future, 10, maybe 15 years, or maybe even sooner, where the car, the muscle car, the things that we take for granted are going to be the territory of the wealthy. If you're really wealthy, you'll be able to screw around. And when I say wealthy, I mean like by our standards, $500,000 and up a year, and whatever that happens to be at that point, right? When this happens, I think that the four-wheeler is going to be the territory of the wealthy, the very wealthy, the very affluent. And I think that the common man wanting to screw around, mess around with engines and port heads and throw pistons in and just street and strip it, I think we're all going to be funneled into this two-wheel world because it's just the car has just gone too far. The car has gone too far.
Could be, yeah. I'm not much of a bike guy myself. I had a Honda CX500 in 1987 or something like that. Butted around for summer, and I just remember, feeling like I was going to get run over by the little old lady who couldn't see me. That kind of so many near-death experiences. It was cool, but
I've been run over by them. I know.
God bless all little ladies, but they don't see so well sometimes. You got to pretend like you're invisible. But I appreciate, but I got to see a grill. I got to see fenders. I got to see a body. Bikes are cool, but I get them. But I just, I need four wheels. I hope you're wrong. I'll put it like that.
I hope I'm wrong too. Honestly, it's not like I want to be right.
Yeah,
it's not that I'm saying, this is my vision. This is what no. It's nothing
it's
like
a
that at
likely
all.
scenario. It's a likely scenario. It's a plausible scenario.
When I look at what's happening to the dollar, I look at what's happening to manufacturing, I look at what's happening with supply chain issues, I look at the complications of machines, I look at all of the factors in place. And the fact that I honestly believe we're going to be at $10, $12, $20 a gallon gasoline before too long. Just based on the economic cycle that's kind of in place, the hyperinflation that's happening right now. That's where it's going to go. I hope it doesn't, but I think it will. But wait, we got a question over here. Abel D. UT Steve, your thoughts regarding retro SUVs. Who did it better, Jeep, Land Rover with the Defender, and Ford with the Bronco?
I'm not too familiar with the Land Rover Defender. I should Google it. That's probably a picture of it. But the Bronco thing, Ford did a good thing with now you see it, now you don't, on, off, on, off. And the Bronco Sport, don't be fooled. That was a front wheel drive, sort of a little critter. The new Bronco, which we're starting to see with Barrett Jackson, they turn up and stuff. And those are stunning. They make them in 2-door and 4-door. And they're pretty good looking rigs, and Jeeps, they're hitting home run after home run to me, the Gladiator, holy smokes, that's longer than a Ford extended Econoline van. It has room for everybody and a bed. These are good times, but retro is big and beautiful. And the Bronco is a nice piece of work, but not the Sport Bronco, the Bronco, the one that just came along,
I would say Ford has probably hit the market best currently with the Bronco. And it's not because I like the Bronco. But I'm not an SUV kind of guy.
Yeah.
So like as a spectator, it's somebody just standing back and looking at it.
That's me with most. Yeah.
The Bronco, in my opinion, is probably the one that nails the current market, the retro market best out of all of them. Yeah. In California, and I saw videos of this with the actual the sticker. They were asking like $40,000 over sticker.
Yeah.
This is in California. This is as of maybe I guess it was 3 weeks ago, a month ago, perhaps. And it wasn't just one dealership; it was a couple of dealerships. They're asking like $40,000 over sticker.
I remember back in '78, the pace car Corvette, the silver and black cars. Remember those things? They're on the cover of a Wall Street Journal, but it was known as the dealer availability charge, is what they called the scalp. You know what I mean? With that said, you'll wait a few years, but I guess if you got to be first in line, if you can swing it, well, go for it. It's the beautiful capitalist world we're in.
Now, ironically enough, before we were talking about the 383 Chevy, right? And I built a 383 Chevy for one of the pace cars. One of my customers had a pace car. Wow. And it launched the motor on it, and he was like, what should I put in here? And I was like, well, simplest thing is just throw another small block in it. Let's build a 383. And I got one of the first kits. Who was it now? Was it Performance Automotive Wholesale, PAW?
PAW, yeah, okay.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was a kit. Like the first 383 I built for the tow thing, there was no kit. We had to put it together. Yeah. But it was an actual kit. Came in a box. It was all beautiful. The crank, the pistons, the rods, the whole bit. Took an afternoon. Slammed this motor to get it stuffed it in the car. And that thing made smoke. It was a good motor.
I know Scat's the name these days. It's amazing too how easy we have. It used to be had to find a 400 in a junkyard, and it usually was beyond any hopes. You grab the crank out of it, and put it in the 350, and try to find a 4-bolt main 350, that whole thing. But now it's such beautiful. We have this stuff at our disposal, and yes, it's maybe Chinese made, and for the most part the machining's good. Just got to double check it before I put together. But it is amazing, that we have such an embarrassment of riches, as it were. I guess it's all here.
Steve, have you seen? I know this is off topic, right? Have you seen these videos that they have of the Pakistani factories?
I have not. No.
Oh,
I might have. Yeah.
It is the most amazing thing you'll ever see. It's like they make whatever it happens to be, whatever part happens to be. So it could be radiator hoses or water pumps, whatever it happens to be. And it's like you see what these factories actually look like. The videos, a series of videos that I've been watching were from Pakistan, but it's the same thing. These Chinese factories, right? They're not what you think. Like when we think of factory, you think of a big building with the smokestack and the parking lot. It's a couple of acre big parking lot, right?
Boxes and people checking in with right.
Yeah, these are like brick shanties with chickens running around and guys that don't wear any shoes, and they're making crankshafts. Like if you want to see where your freaking crankshaft comes from, brake shoes. You want to see where all of this stuff comes from. You got to watch these videos. It's the craziest thing in the world. And that's when they talk about Chinese factories. Right away, you think of like a big assembly line and so on and so forth. But it's not like that. It's these little mom and pop things with like goats and chickens running around and guys holding the kid like this in his arm and like running the machine with the other arm. You know what I mean?
Maybe the kid's running the machine.
Right. Well, yeah, they get to like 8 or 9 years old and they're like, go, man, make this stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's a big old world. As long as the parts are decent, just check them.
Okay. Wheels and tires. All right. So I did videos on this. I have problems with this. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and I'm going to let Steve answer this. Wheels and tires.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I just don't understand why Dodge is pulling the plug on gas, Hemis, etc. so early. They just started outselling Mustang. EVs won't be 100% mandated until 2035. So why give up so early?
Well, a couple of things. The mandated thing. With the change in government, you might have that derail. You never know. But the plan at this point, I guess Detroit automakers have to say, well, it looks like 2035, which is what, 17 years from right now, right? Something like that. I was an English major. Long time.
No,
But,
12, it's
13
years.
Yeah,
13 years.
Yeah. So but with that said, it's a little ways off. A lot can happen, between here and there in terms of stuff. So who knows? But with that said, you got to remember too that even though Challenger might be outselling Mustang is Ford's smallest volume vehicle. You know what I mean? So, and beyond that, the Challenger's been in production for longer than the Fox Mustang as of now. I mean, since 08 to now, that's about a year longer than the 79 through 92, 3, whatever it is, Foxmobile. So, and again, it's not broke. Why fix it? But with that said, I mean, it's got to end eventually. I was bummed when I heard that the Hemi 8 was apparently going away in 2 more years. Again, it's 2 years away. It's not like right now.
Well, no, it's the end of 2023, so it's actually a year and a half away.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, but with that said, I would say that it's possible there might be a splinter line. They still have it like the V10 for Viper. Who knows? It might even be that this is a fart in the wind. We've seen this before. I always say kind of projections are just that, But with that said, I'm sure, Dodge has to remember that the future is, they have to be ready for it. And the V8 thing, it's astonishing. We've had Hemis for as long as we have. There's millions of 5.7, 6.1, 6.2, 6.4 Hemis on the planet. If they stopped making them yesterday, we have tons. It does suck that you can't buy a new one, maybe, but the new Challenger, I'm sure, is going to be exciting and electrifying, maybe even. But we'll have to see. I'm an optimist, but I'll say that remember that even though Challenger might be outselling Mustang, it still isn't a big enough thing to keep a corporation alive. Take the Ram and Jeep out of the picture, and the Challenger's a cute little tiny side job business. You know what I mean? But
well, I mean, the overall car picture is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. I mean, what cars does Chrysler make anymore?
They don't. Yeah, it's just SUVs and crossovers. But apparently the market wants that. But here's the thing. Remember when the Magnum came out, this wagon all of a sudden, what? And that it came and went. But with that said, you never really know what's going to happen. But, people respond, the manufacturers respond to what people seem to want. Sometimes they try to push the program and they get bit hard, but generally speaking, it looks like SUVs and crossovers are where it's at, and 2-door posts and 2-door hardtops and 4-doors and wagons and convertibles on the same platform like we used to have. That's an obsolete thing, and it could well be that passenger cars are going there too.
Well, I'll say this, and this is a reoccurring thought that I've had for many years now. Like, this isn't just like okay, this is my current opinion. I believe. Okay, I mean, for the most part, Detroit, all of the manufacturers rely on focus groups.
Yeah,
they rely on focus groups. So what color, what option, what does this girl say to you? What is, okay, and all of their major decisions or their directions are guided by these focus groups, and I believe that they're just polling the wrong people.
I'll say something. Maybe about 7 years ago, the new Dodge Charger, when I had the refresh, the mid-cycle refresh, I was invited to one of those focus groups. And for about 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., Dodge rented an airport hangar. And you go in there, it was a stage show. It was like 20 different Chargers, from the V6 to the cop car to the Hellcat. They're all there. And they brought in every day different groups of social media and reporters and stuff. And I was there with somebody from modernmommy.com.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But she was there, right? And they put us in a Hellcat, and we're driving along and stuff, But they have to, I guess. But they also had Motor Trend there, they had Car and Driver there. Everybody was there at the various times, But modernmommy.com. But I guess everybody has a voice, I don't.
Well, everybody does have a voice, but it's like it just seems
Yeah.
repeatedly that their voice comes from a very select pool of people. Where if they designed cars based on focus groups of, let's say, factory workers or truck drivers or you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Farmers, because farmers have to buy cars the same way everybody else has to buy cars, right? If their focus groups are made up of that type of people, as opposed to the urban, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well,
I think that automotive design and the features that they build in and the priorities they take would have taken a completely different direction.
Well, I will say I don't like to be disappointed, so I generally set my standards pretty low when it comes to everything. That way, I'm not disappointed. But with that said,
I agree with you. I agree.
I'm happy to be here. Every day is a great day. The world's getting better with every passing second. Because if it's not, that's a lot of work. I'm leaving it at that. But with that said, I also have to remember too, like, when I worked at Hot Rod Magazine, I was kind of the staff Mopar guy. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't going to take Hot Rod Magazine and make it all Duster 340s and all Slant 6s, because that would have alienated the hell out of the Camaro, Ford, Buick, the whole thing, but brought some more Mopar in. But with that said, I was also aware, don't let my personal tastes, and in some cases, the vocal minority is not the silent majority.
Right.
And in many cases, they probably are interviewing the right kind of, because they pay millions of bucks to these companies to bring in everybody, modernmommy.com included, and to listen and get their word and stuff. I sometimes I think for our sensibilities, now my dream car is an altered wheelbase, Hillborn injected 65 Dodge, right? So am I the guy to design the next Jeep? Probably not. It's going to look like a funny car, So, but
there'll be a certain balance of features and practicality that you will look to put into that car.
I know. I'm becoming absurd, but yeah, it's tough. It's a tough.
I just gotta hit this. Re-triggered. Peter Kovacs is a Salty Cracker fan. Shout out to the whole Salty crew out there. Okay, I saw that it jumped out at me, so I had to say something. The Salty Nation. Yeah, okay, we got everybody jumping in here now.
All right.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Salty Cracker at all?
I don't know. Saltines? I don't know.
Kathy's like, no, we're gonna get shadow banned. That's all right. Yeah, everybody, the Salty Army checking in. Oh, I love you guys.
It's not like 1 cup 2. Never mind. I won't never.
Yeah, tell me you got a shout out from Uncle Tony's Garage. Let's see. The salt must flow. Oh, we got a lot of people on here. All right. Mike Batista Freedom's Hot. That's a dirty word. Let me change this topic real quick before we actually do get shadow banned. Right. So, Steve, what do you? Yeah, I'm just going to click on that to get entire parts cars. Okay. So, Steve, somebody asked, and I'd have to go back and find it. Oh, here it is. Abel D. What parts are you hoarding during these uncertain times to keep your cars on the road?
Wow. Well, not much, because again, I'm easy to please, but I will say that Jim Kramer at Kramer Automotive Specialties does a lot of like 62 through 5 max wedge stuff. He says that there is something like 24 floor pans for first gen B bodies on the planet. 24. And I put my name on one of them because I want to do a floor in my 62 4-door. And it is true that right now, Auto Body Specialties. I was talking to Dan Gallo Jr. earlier tonight, and he photographed one of the Dukes Fest things where they jump the General Lee and they smash it down. And used to be they used a real Charger. Now they take a Crown Vic.
Right.
Auto Metal or AMD body parts on a Crown Vic. Those are 4.6, and they jump that and destroy that instead. But apparently the Charger parts, the panels to make a Crown Vic into a Charger, and they're pretty convincing, are on back order. And again, it's a COVID kind of a thing. And also, I hear that AMD Auto Metal Direct, they're a business, right? And so they're making lots of money on volume of Camaro and Mustang parts, and the Mopar stuff ain't as popular. So right now, there's a bunch of part numbers that are sold out and aren't going to happen again until another conglomerate gathers together orders pre-sold and makes more. So right now, almost any AMD fender, door, hood, trunk, floor, trunk, whatever, for you fill in the blank popular Mopar, you might want to snap one up if you think you're going to need it soon, because they may or may not be done again. The tooling's still there. It's basically you have to put dime in the slot to make the machine run, and there's no dimes right now because, well, the machine's busy making other stuff. That's the thing.
But a lot of the stuff too is that the machines are over on another part of the world.
That's precisely what's happening. Yeah.
There's how many Chrysler body parts are currently sitting in container ships? There's like 200 container ships
That's
backed
true too.
up all across the Pacific. How many? You know what I mean?
Yeah. My thing is this. I mean, right now, any rust-free, relatively complete automobile is what you want to get. Something that doesn't need anything. And I've also lowered my standards. Like on my Dart, it has like a bent grill. I don't care. I'm going to take care of structural rust. There's no structural rust, but I like that it's faded. I love that. I'm going to leave it alone because I don't do wax. I don't do polish, man. It's just so, I had a funny car, the Wilshire Shaker. It went to a show one time, and on the side it was orange, a Wilshire Shaker, gold leaf, right? Somebody, I won't even say, it doesn't matter who, they ran their belt buckle down the side of the car right through Wilshire Shaker. They didn't know what they were doing. They were in the truck trying to chain it down and shit. And that just broke my soul, right? So I don't.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
My soul broke in half and it fell apart. I just walked away. So I just don't even do that anymore. So I like cars that are kind of raw, but I would say any original rust-free car. There's lots of them. I used to, in the Junkyard Gold days, we saw lots of Road Runners and stuff that were just sitting there all faded out but no rust. Grab those, grab them, love them. Don't even buy anything anymore. Just have that car. Put a big stroker in it if you can find it, but keep it looking nasty and old as long as it's rust-free. And those things are out there. That's what I would order right now. Cars that are rust-free and just ready to go,
Back in the 80s, so I'm from New York City, and everything was rotted. Everything was rotted, right? And that was one of the things that pushed me towards dragsters. I always love the purity of dragsters, but just the very fact that they don't rust.
Yeah.
There's no rot.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? I don't have to replace, you know what I mean? It's like, fine. I don't need the rest of the car.
As you probably know, I guess a lot of the old dragsters, one of the things is rust inside of the mild steel tubing. They get thin and they break in half, and any number of people. Yeah. But anyway, yes, I know what you're saying. There's no body panel will rot away and nothing obvious. Yeah, I got you. I'm just being a wise guy. But yeah.
Let's see. One for the road. Tony, Steve, I was waiting on a right fender, deck lid, and roof skin for a 70 Challenger. The wait time is unknown on the AMD panels.
Yeah, there you go. I guess what I would say is, there's always going to be somebody out there who says, I bought my fender for $300. I'm going to get $3,000 for it. Let the guy go pound sand. That stuff sucks. I hate that. You know what I mean? Whatever. Go ahead and scalp it. I just say wait it out. Wait it out. The market will correct. Just wait it out and take what you have now and just patch it together, make it happen. But avoid scalpage. That it sucks. I'll leave it like that. But I know,
I'm pretty sure. Like again, okay, I got to go out. So I got to be speculating. There were reasons why those ships are all out there, and I think that one of the reasons is that they're going to hold out until the price of everything is high enough, until inflation makes it worth their while to really start unloading these things. I know there are crazy political things going on, and there's all sorts of like weirdnesses. But I think that the gist of all of these supply chain issues, supply chain shortages, I think that a lot of those containers are just sitting there waiting for the price of these things to go up. And
they run the risk of killing the demand. You gotta remember that too. They run the risk of killing the demand. People who do that kind of crap. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I say, let them pound sand. If you feel like being abused, don't play.
There's just so much weirdness out there, man. It's hard to know which end is up and what cards are you going to play. You know what I mean? It's like that's.
Yeah, I keep it simple. I just try to keep it simple. Things I can't control, I don't even think about. I'm 57, and I'm not going to change the world. I find I'm not going to be president. Damn it, life gets easier when you stop thinking about stuff that you can't control. That's just me,
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think about a lot of the stuff that I can't control because
vote and run for office if you really feel strongly about anything, I guess.
Well, it's not so much that I have to strategize for the future. I have grandkids. I have 2 granddaughters. You know what I mean? Okay. And what I mean, where I am in my life right now is I'm trying to build a foundation for them. Something that they can, step into. Trying to build wealth that can be passed to them. So I do keep an eye on things, kind of. I can't control them, but I can strategize. And say, oh, okay, the trend is here, so I'll do this. The crowd is running this way, I'll run this way. And so can't control it, Still got to kind of pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Steve, are you going to any events this year aside from the ones that you're paid to do?
Let's see. Well, I know. I guess in September, our friend Dallas Brown at the AHRA is
Yes.
yeah. I might be there as an announcer. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I probably will. But yeah, I don't even know the full. But apparently, it's YouTube influencers going to have a match race, drag race, shootout thing. That's coming up in September, I guess, right?
Okay. Well, Dallas Brown of the AHRA, who does our Wednesday, he does a Wednesday night show with me every Wednesday night, and John Wilburn, who's on here now. He's one of our moderators. Those are the two guys that organize, that brain trusted this thing and organized it, and they're the ones who'll be hiring you if you take the job, if you decide to take it, or you can come as a racer. So just real quick, a plug for these guys. No Name Nationals. It's happening. John, what's the freaking date again? I got a brain tumor. I can't remember the freaking dates of anything. Do you know the date?
Is it September 30th, October 1st?
October, yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
Well, anyway, you need 500 subscribers to participate. Okay. Which you've got way more than 500 subscribers. You're on your way to taking over YouTube.
Oh.
So you need 500 subscribers to participate. Anybody can come and spectate. They've got something like 100 people. Okay, it's September 30th through October 1st. According to John Wilburn. And Fubar is just putting up the link to John Wilburn's channel. So if you're curious about the No Name Nationals, you want to get involved or anything, go to John Wilburn's channel that Fubar, thank you, Fubar, just put the link up to. And it's going to be like an automotive Woodstock. It's going to be, there's so many people, there's so much excitement about all of this. There's like something like 100 channels right now that are trying to get to that 500 sub level so that they can enter a car or a bike, because it's like anything runs, anything goes. So and
will it be like a match race, heads up, or bracket? I mean, what if a guy shows up with a 4-cylinder Pinto? Is it about eliminations or brackets or?
Okay, there's an all-run bracket program. Okay, and then there's also call-outs. So, like for instance, right now I'm supposed to race. Andy at Unity Motorsports Garage, we've got $4,000 up right now on a match race between Bottle Rocket and Casper. Bottle Rocket's our one of our project cars, and Casper is a Ford pickup truck with an extremely exotic motor and the mind power of David Vizard of all people behind it. So it's just like the crazy old Italian from Tennessee, right, up against John Wilburn and David Vizard on this crazy Freako Hemi hybrid Ford motor.
You mean Andy?
Huh?
You said John Wilburn.
Did I say John Wilburn? I mean Andy. Andy Wood. Against my 318 taxi cab. So this ought to be interesting. We got $4,000 on the line. And there's a lot of other people who are doing call outs and so there's an all-run bracket program. There's call-outs and match races, grudge races, and a mini bike race that's based off of these 100cc Coleman scooters that you can buy at Tractor Supply or.
Does the name Joe Sebergandio come up with the scooter stuff or not? If not, Joe's a big scooter guy. Just wondering, is he involved? Or if you,
I have no. I've never heard the name.
Big world. Yeah.
But I have nothing to do with the actual organizing or running of this thing. This is strictly John Wilburn and Dallas. So anybody who has questions about that or hashtag No Name Nationals, you'll see video. There's hundreds of videos now with this thing. It's shaping up to be a huge event. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you get to announce it, I'm telling you, man, you're going to have a blast.
Yeah, I probably will. I'll probably be there. Well, beyond that, the Barrett Jackson thing continues. We have Florida, April. And then there's Las Vegas in June, I think it is, and then Houston, I think, in August or something like that. So Barrett Jackson. But one thing that's kind of neat is, just about a year ago right now, there was the Great Texas Mopar Horde. It was an auction event, and it came and it went. But one thing that was there, this guy, John Haney, he passed away, but he left 280 vehicles in the Texas desert, one of which I bought, my police car. They all get sold and stuff like that. Well, there was a 70 Pontiac GTO that the Haney brothers, they were such Mopar guys, they shot this thing full of holes. And this is the speedometer from it right here. That's a GTO.
That's awesome.
They hated, non-Mopars so much that they blew holes in this thing. So anyway, a fellow named Dalton Summit bought that GTO. It's orange. It's an automatic 400 car. He's rebuilding it as a running driving car, but full of holes. It's the original Swiss cheese Pontiac, right? But he's got a thing called Pole Barn Garage, I think it is. And he's basically, it's a channel where he's rebuilding it. So if you get a chance, that's kind of cool.
What's it called? Pole Barn Garage?
Pole Barn Garage. Yeah, Dalton Summit, and it's a 70 GTO. It's a car that, well, to me, it should have been the star of the show. It's like somebody taking a GTO and just hitting it with machine gun fire. I mean, full of holes, but still very capable of being made running, and Dalton's doing it. So it's kind of cool. I thought the crazy thing is, there's a no reserve auction. I thought somebody with a collection of Ram Air 4s would buy that thing for $5 or $10 grand. People would fight over this thing. It went for $370. Unbelievable. And it was a Texas rust-free car, but full of bullet holes,
So basically scrap money.
Yeah,
scrap.
But it was a goat. It had still in the motor, So anyway,
that's awesome.
He's going to get
and this guy's going to leave all of the holes in the body?
Yeah, he's going to leave it alone. Yeah, so if you Google, just check him out. But he probably will be there at the AHRA event because he's up there. He's got, I think, I don't know, 10. He's got a lot of people tuning in to watch what he's doing. He's making something out of nothing, which is cool. That's one of the beauties of YouTube.
Okay, Two Hacks Garage is saying that's the GTO that they're racing. I told you, Steve, there's all kinds of call-outs and match racing and grudge racing going on here.
Yeah, so that's great. That's
Two Hacks Garage is racing that car.
And he sent me, I said, Dalton, you want the, he says, no, you can keep that. I'll give it back anytime you want it. This to me is like, this should be in the car. But he sent it to me as a gift. And if he wants it back, he can have it back. I'll put it like that. I still have it. But anyway.
That's awesome. Kat, can you find a picture of that car?
Which one?
Go to Pole Barn Garage. I want to see what this thing looks like. That's great. The Holy Goat is calling it. The Holy Goat.
Okay, I get it. That sounds about right.
Dalton's Holy Goat. John Wilburn is saying, yeah, okay, he's racing it and doing a burnout contest. You'd have to do the burnout contest without all those holes in the body.
A shot of it. That's kind of it. I don't know if that's what it is or not, but it's
Oh yeah, Kathy got me a picture of it here.
Okay.
The Holy Goat. Do it yourself, patina.
That one you were saying?
No, I get the idea. I get it. That's
the original.
I love that.
I don't know. Ram, putting the air in Ram Air. I don't know. There's a lot of jokes we can make with that.
I wonder what it's going to weigh.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably it's got thousands of holes. It's
gonna be like 1,500 pounds. It's gonna be like unstoppable.
They'll have to get the lead out, literally. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shells. I fired a bunch of rounds. It's funny. We did a video, and John Haney's brother, I forget his name, Howard Haney. He says, "Hey Steve, let's do a video." So we did a walk around. He gave me a pistol, and pow, 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 pow. He shot holes in the thing, but and it was a little crazy. We could have been ricocheted and pinged, but I say as long as you catch it on camera and spell my name right, it's good.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it.
Gun safety, blah blah blah. But anyway, but the car was sold for $300 and change. And I was kind of thinking a couple of Ram Air guys would fight for it and would go for real money, but nah, who knows, man. But anyway.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah.
I love bizarre shit like that. You can always see so many perfect cars. You can always see something where it's like, okay, I saw my 10th one of those back in 1984, right? So it's like now, it's like anything that's like weird or crazy like that. I love
For me, I zero in on weird stuff. Like there was a GTO Judge. It was a Ram Air car with 3-speed manual and drums and no hideaway headlights. That I zeroed in a radio delete car too. It was real. And it was given an 11/10 resto, which is cool. Nobody put AC on it, power windows. They didn't ruin it. They kept it, and no force pure. The Ford top loader 3-speed TNC, and that's the kind of stuff that it stands out. Always did for me. Less is more. But and one thing too, I love YouTube. I'm so thankful for it. It really saved my career because a lot of times, not to crap on network, but so many times the decision makers are not qualified to be in control of my life or my career.
Go ahead and crap on them because my opinion is that the establishment and that's why I got out of magazines, man. It's one of the big reasons why I got away from magazines eons ago. In my opinion, the establishment has done nothing but hurt the culture by forcing people to look at things from a certain mindset, a certain uniform mindset.
The race to the bottom. It's the race to the bottom.
Money, just money, 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 money. It's a money game, you know.
Yeah.
And editorial exists around the advertiser. The advertiser exists to sell parts. And in my opinion, it's the media, the establishment has done nothing but hurt the culture over all these years. And YouTube is turning that around because you've got all of these hundreds of grassroots guys and guys who are just pure knowledge like you, pure enthusiasm.
Get a voice and deserve a voice, you know.
Right.
There's a lot of folks on the tube who are just kind of like, oh man, what's that guy doing on TV? You know, I'm one of them. I'm kidding. Well, man, I don't know, maybe. But if you know the decision makers say that, so whatever. But anyway, it's nice to just have a voice and be able to do your thing, you know. And yeah, there are ads on YouTube too. I get that, but you know, you can click through them or support them. You choose, you know.
But they're not. The ads are not determining the editorial direction.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I remember when I was at Hot Rod Magazine, you know, for 7 years, and you know, the publishers, they're there to keep the thing afloat. And again, I will say it takes a team to do anything properly. And if you put the hot rodders in charge of the business, Hot Rod would have stayed a club newsletter. To be honest, it took a real business mind to grow that thing. I get it; it takes a team. But there was an ad sales guy who was about to seal a deal with Rubbermaid for like cup holders. How can we put this on the cover of Hot Rod? And thank goodness the editor, Ro McGonigal, says no cup holder on the cover of Hot Rod. They were going to go there. And how do you build a cover around a cup holder to get ads from Rubbermaid? I don't know. This is back.
Oh, they'll figure out a way. They'll figure out a way.
It'll make everybody. It'll make only one person happy. The advertiser, the readers are going to run. It just, you know, it's. But that's
people who've been around magazines or not been around magazines. People who grew up reading magazines, right? A lot of them know, but most of them don't. They don't realize that it's the advertising department that really calls the shots as far as the editorial department goes.
Yeah.
The advertising department is the muscle of the publishing company and the establishment video companies now, like Motor Trend or you know, it's the advertising company that actually, or the advertising department, I should say, that actually has the muscle and the pull over what direction the product takes and who ends up in what position to call shots. Yeah. So it's, to me, the whole thing is just a perversion, and YouTube is purity. It's just, it's every man for himself, and your knowledge, your experience, or whatever it happens to be, is taken at its face value, and you either sink or you sink or you swim, you know, based on real merits and not because somebody decided to put you there. And that's why you're going to do fantastic.
At Peterson, there was a phrase, servicing the advertiser, and it meant so many things involving knee pads. You know what I'm saying? Service, you know, but that was the thing, not the reader. Service the advertiser. You know, it took a team. But the good news is, you know, Freiberger and McGonigal and so many editors were just with the right head. They basically had that in mind, that they would keep the reader first and foremost, and the advertiser could come or go. Sorry, buddy, too bad for you. But when the reader's put first, that's when the magazine succeeds, generally speaking. And I was lucky to be there under Freiberger and McGonigal, who were just, you know, reader-oriented people who kept the magazine as pure as it could be. You know. Cool.
So, Steve, for people who are on the who are watching this right now, who aren't familiar with your channel, why don't you give them a quick rundown? Tell them what you do.
Yeah, sure. It's the Steve Magnante YouTube channel, and ideally, right now, I'm only about 8 months old, something like that. And you know, ideally, I go to junkyards and I give cars a voice in the boneyard. But right now, I'm in Massachusetts, it's frozen, and so I do a thing called muscle car crawl, not junkyard crawl. And we walk around like a GT350 or something like that. Show what's cool and weird about it. It's like a junkyard, but it's not a junk car. And then I do the model car crawl, which is, believe it or not, it doesn't bring a lot of views. It's a good way to lose money, to be honest with you. I watch the AdSense dips crazily when I do plastic models, but that's okay, you know. So it's, you know, but with that said, yeah, Steve Mack's YouTube channel, it's about just giving cars a voice. And this spring, we're, I think, going to go back to Idaho, L&L Auto Salvage, and do a couple hundred videos there. They have 8,000 cars, and we're going to give all of them.
At some point this year, I want to get together with you and do one of these junkyard calls.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah.
I think we'll have a blast. You know what I mean? It's like,
cars don't talk, and I'd rather sit back and listen to them, but they don't talk, you know, and you know, so you just give it a voice and just things that are interesting and weird. Like we just found something like last week. I'm involved with a company called High Octane Classics in Auburn, Mass. Right, so they kind of help me. Their tech guy is mine for a day or two a week in exchange for me going there and doing videos about their car. So anyway, we found an '88 Mustang GT radio delete car. Well, check this out. We looked inside, and it's an unmolested car, low miles. had speakers and wires.
Yep.
And I was like, well, so obviously Ford says, you know what, we're going to throw a big curve into the assembly line if we take this $3 of material out, leave it in. So you've seen that too, huh?
My Mustang was radio. I ordered it radio delete, and when it came in, it had speakers and everything, and I was furious about it. I said, "I'm not taking this freaking car if those things are in there." My whole point was to get this car as light as possible, and you got speakers everywhere. There's got to be 20 pounds of speakers and wires all through this freaking car.
Did you take them out? Or
yeah, they took them all out.
Yeah, and I thought about it when I saw that. I was like shocked and surprised. I thought, oh, okay, I get it. You know, the head, the receiver is probably, you know, $40-50, whatever. You can't take that out, but the speakers and the potential nightmare on the assembly line of getting the wrong car with no speakers, you know, that whole thing, just throwing any kind of a hiccup into the process. So I said, okay, I get it. Ford left the speakers in, and who knew? But it had the button on the fender, it had the dash. It was an unmolested car, so that was cool. Finding stuff like that is what I love to do, you know, and give cars a voice, whether it's in a junkyard or in an actual, you know, car restored. So anyway.
I wanted the rubber floor mats too.
I remember you wrote that. You wrote that.
And they wouldn't put it in there.
That's right. Yeah.
I would have paid extra. You know, he was like, no problem. You know, you're going to charge me for it, whatever. You know, it's manual steering. Charge me extra for it. I don't care. I'll pay whatever it takes. I want nothing in this car. You know.
Right. Yeah.
But Steve, we're right up. We're at the 2-hour mark.
Okay. All right.
Time flies, bro. We
does.
We get together, and it's just like it's gone. Right. Next month, we try to get together once a month.
Okay.
So you get to go sometime in March?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
You know, usually, let's see. Yeah, Barry Jackson's April, so yeah, it should be okay. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, throw me a text in a day or two, and we'll figure out a date for the next one. And so. Okay, guys, listen, everybody who contributed with Super Chat, thank you so much. You guys keep the bills paid. Hey, Steve, we got to do this on your channel. You know, you could be collecting the Super Chat.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know about this, but a year ago I knew nothing, and now I'm just crawling along. It's pretty cool, and I'm thankful to anybody who tunes in and watches. And you know, Steve Magnante YouTube channel, and check it out if you like it. You know,
give me a call tomorrow. I'll make some time, and I'll bring you up to speed on all of this stuff, because this is the next thing you got to start doing. You got to start working your collective audience. Now, the collective audience we have here, we have the best automotive community in all of YouTube. Period. The end. There's nobody that even comes close. You know, and you share a good number of these people. You know, more than you realize. You know. So, but anyway, everybody contributed with Super Chat. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And everybody contributed just with your presence and your good conversation and the questions and everything else. Thank you. I'm so grateful. So is Steve. You guys are absolutely awesome. Our fantastic mods, John, Ari, Zero, Fubar the Axe, right? They keep this thing running. They keep all of the riff-raff out. They throw the links in and everything. It's just fantastic. I'm so lucky to have these people. You have no idea. And Steve, anything you need to plug real quick before we go?
No, just glad to be here, and yeah, you know, it's good to be part of the thing, and it's so cool to see, you know, Tony DeFeo, you know, the legend then and now.
I haven't changed a bit.
Right, you know. So yeah, it's cool. It's you know, I used to drag race and cruise around with your magazine sitting next to me, and anyway, it's good to be associated.
It's a small world, right?
Yeah. So.
All right, Steve. I'm gonna hit this out button. We're gonna end this thing, and thank you so much, brother. And we'll talk. I'll see you guys Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. The regular Wednesday night tech talk show with Dallas. We had so many people. We didn't get into questions tonight, but come Wednesday, we'll do more. All right, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm hitting the out button. Good night, all.